welcome to the first episode of the Retro Troop podcast. Today, we'll be covering such topics as introducing ourselves. Who are we? What do we do? What are some of our favorite games? What defines us? We'll be talking about news, Kojima leaving Konami, and Silent Hills being cancelled. We'll be analyzing what makes games today in the current generation different, and the future of gaming. As well as Avengers 2. Thoughts? Midwest Classic Gaming Expo, which we went to. Games we've been playing recently. The Dreamcast, PSP, Retro VGS, maybe the Vita. So, I'm John Zaroslik, also known as Jay-Z. This is John Black, also known as John.
Hello.
This is Jameson, also known as Atomic Foo 22, his YouTube channel, which we will be referring to as Foo.
Look at that channel, people.
Yeah, go check out his channel. It's not got much, but
there's nothing good on it at all.
it's pretty tragic, but go check it out anyway. Oh, and my YouTube channel, which is JZNES, which these will probably be posted to. So, how are you guys doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Really excited that this is our premiere episode.
Are you really happy to be here?
I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah.
My pants are basically becoming white.
Yeah, it's a pantsless podcast. I don't know if you guys...
I'm not wearing any pants, so...
Jameson, are you wearing any pants?
Jameson is wearing a thong.
We're up to a really bad start. Yeah, I'm wearing pants because I'm not a freak.
Okay. So, basically, we're just going to get into kind of what kind of gamers we are and what kind of games we're into and what defines us as gamers. What some of our favorite games are. John, why don't you start? What kind of gamer are you?
Well, personally, I like to see myself as a modern gamer, though
right.
I have nothing against the older games. I was just brought up in a newer age. Currently, the games that I've had a lot of interest in recently has been games like Fallout New Vegas, which honestly might as well be my all-time favorite. Evil Within has captivated my attention. Both Hotline Miami's also. Other little RPGs, kind of like Divinity Original Sin, Pillars of Eternity, and a lot of just newer games that have come up that I really enjoy. Like, I'm basically more of a Steam gamer than I have been a 360 recently, but I'm gonna be getting a PS4 soon, invest in games like Arkham Knight, Bloodborne, and, just seeing whatever the future has to hold.
Right. So, what kind of genres are you into? You mentioned RPGs, some RPGs, and some shooters. I know you're interested in. We're all kind of interested in shooters and whatnot. So,
I guess I'm not really particularly tied to one genre. I kind of like.
Yeah, I just mean like what kind of genres.
Oh, like
you follow mainly.
Right.
You like.
Right. Lately CRPGs, as I've said, with like Divinity and Pillars of Eternity have been my big ones. I will do some action RPGs from time to time, like I said, Fallout New Vegas, Skyrim, that sort of stuff. First person shooters, I kind of have leaned away from and going for a more third person experience. Like I've said, played and beat the first Dark Souls, so I'm kind of a big fan of that. And like I said, I'm going to be getting into Bloodborne soon, so that's further sort of, third-person stuff that I like to get into.
All right. Well, I was thinking also, what kind of got you into gaming? Just a brief. When did you get into gaming? Just briefly.
If I'd have to
start, what would you think it was the first game you played? Probably
the first game I played. I'd have to say that. I mean, if it's me specifically, the one that played it, my earliest memory of a game that I played was Pikmin for the GameCube. In fact, Pikmin 2 was the reason I ended up buying a GameCube in the first place. But I remember just having so much fun with the first one that I was like, I finally have found something that I like that isn't just, schoolwork here, fucking, outside work there. Yeah. And, just like, if I had to generalize it to the first memory, it would be Pikmin 1.
Okay, so what would you classify as some of your favorite games?
Well,
of all time.
Of all time, obviously.
Right now, you're into the other games, but what's some of your favorites of all time?
Of all time, I will have to say that Fallout New Vegas, for me, has always etched a personal top of the niche for me.
What makes you so attached to that game? Why that one? Briefly here.
I remember, what was it? A friend of mine had told me about Fallout 3 and had said how great of a game it was, but, New Vegas really isn't that good. So I played the third one and thought it was good, but then I looked and thought, what really makes New Vegas so different? And then I started playing it, and I actually disagreed with my friend who recommended it to me in the first place. I think New Vegas just had a better, stance on combat. It was easier to get into. While the story, admittedly, wasn't complex, it was still something that you could follow. It was still engaging enough to keep me going. The amount of side quests that existed within the game were also really good. The companions that you had were again a lot more memorable than the third one. And I don't know, I just always have kind of been a sucker for like neo-western or just western in general, which is where, for those of you who don't know, it takes place in the Mojave Desert basically. So
okay. Yeah, I'm not too familiar, but I've heard things. I've heard good things. Obviously, you've talked about it a lot. So, well, cool. Jameson, what kind of give yourself a little introduction and tell us what kind of games you're into and what kind of gamer you are and whatnot.
Okay. Let's see. I suppose I should probably start with the beginning.
Yeah, start at the beginning. Tell us what's some of the first games you played.
Earliest gaming memories. I've got 3 separate ones. Okay, so my earliest memory would probably be parents had purchased a computer from, I want to say it was like Costco or something.
Really?
This would have been the mid-90s. Oh, wait, I'm going to go back even farther, actually. The first computer that I ever used was an IBM. Oh, my gosh. I wish I could remember what it was. This thing was a junker. I mean, nowadays I'd probably appreciate it, but even as a little kid, I was probably like 4 or 5 years old.
Are we talking CDs or floppy disks?
We're talking floppy disks.
Oh, my God.
We're talking old school. It had a boot menu.
Floppy.
It was Microsoft DOS, if that gives you any idea. And you have to boot up.
How much of a pain was that? Jeez.
I can't remember. God, I wish I could remember what the games were. I can't even. But they were like point and click. It wasn't King's Quest, but I think of King's Quest and the kind of the old-fashioned point-and-click adventure games. But for like kids, I believe they were my cousins, and then that was passed down to us. And
right, because then didn't you say like some of your other memories were like with GoldenEye and Star Fox and stuff? Because your cousins had like an N64.
Exactly. Yeah. My earliest memories of a console, because my first experiences with games, I assumed when I was younger that you could only play games on a personal computer, and so there was like the Humongous Entertainment games, which was like, I think they were an offshoot of EA, if I can remember. But like Putt-Putt, and Putt-Putt was my jam.
Really?
And like a Pajama Sam. Nobody thinks of those anymore.
You mean Cars the prequel?
Yeah, Cars the prequel.
Cars the prequel.
And it's interesting because they put them on the App Store, so you can actually download them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you can get them now?
The same games are still existing.
Cool, I gotta look into these.
But and they're really simple. You'd probably beat the whole game in like 40 minutes. But
yeah, but it'd still be cool just to see where you came from.
Like Putt-Putt saves the zoo, and Putt-Putt goes to the moon, and Pajama Sam 1 and 2. I forget.
Spy Fox?
You know what? I never played Spy Fox. I wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember,
I'll look into
but you would open the box, and I think it was EA because they would have advertisements for like Command and Conquer. It was a kids game, mind you, but they would have like Command and Conquer, and then they'd have like I think it was James Flight Simulator.
Yeah, because what do you think when you play Putt-Putt? Oh yeah, I want to take over the world and fly a jet.
And Conquer. But then I remember that too, my cousins, because my grandmother had like a computer that was like a Windows 98 or whatever, and cousins would bring over like Command and Conquer and Sim Theme Park, and I seem to remember there being another one, but it was like one of the Sid Meier games. I can't, like Civilization maybe, if that sounds right. But
So,
and then but for console games, they had. I mean, talk about perfect storm. They had GoldenEye.
Yeah.
And they had Star Fox. which I remember being kind of captivated.
Now that you mentioned that, I completely forgot that I had a PC when I was younger. I mean, I don't mean to interject, but I was thinking more from a console. So if I had to say my actual first game was a little known title that not a lot of you might actually know what it is, but it's a game called Descent Free Space, and it only ever had It only ever had 2 games, and it was a space flight simulator.
Yeah.
It's a really old game. Interesting fact, you can find both of those on Steam if you're really this curious. But I'm sorry, go on, Jameson.
Well, no, I was just gonna say the first proper console I ever had. This would have been, believe it or not, 2001 was when I actually. So I would have been 8 because I had only ever played. I didn't even know the PlayStation existed, if that gives you an idea, because I'd only owned the N64 from playing with friends and cousins, and then to get a PlayStation. I think the reason why this was the case was this would have been Christmas of 2001. I want to say the PS2 was just coming out.
right when the PlayStation was dying,
and they had the PlayStation. They call it the PlayStation Slim, right? It was a smaller, more compact model. It had the controller with the DualShock, and it was a DualShock controller with the analog sticks included with it. $99. My parents were like, "That's a good way to introduce your kids." And not that they were gamers or anything, but And I remember they didn't really know how to traverse that gaming landscape because they didn't know what would be popular for somebody when you got when you're 7, 8 years old. So they got Namco Museum Volume 1.
Right. That's the best way to do it.
That's what we're familiar with.
Yeah. Exactly.
So in an ironic way, the first games I ever played were Pac-Man,
arcade games.
Pole Position,
which is good because when you're not really used to a lot of really complex games.
Oh yeah, it's actually a really good way to
those games. Yeah, there's something I've been thinking about, and I don't mean to get too far off topic. I just want to say it really quick. But it's when I have kids, I'm gonna do sort of a gated progression sort of thing with games. You start them with Pac-Man. All you have to do is use the joystick or the D-pad, and all you do is move. And then after that, you get them on a shooter, and then you only have the joystick and a button. And then it's then you give them Super Mario Brothers or something where it's like a platform and they kind of have to think about it more. It's a little bit of progression, so they know how to play games and build on games. Yeah.
Actually, what you were saying reminds me of something. It was a story I heard, and it's not a long one. It's this kid, I think he was about 8 or 9 or whatever. He was playing on his mom's iPhone or whatever. Yeah. And for whatever reason, he ended up putting it down, and his father actually introduced him or had made a reference to Pokemon.
Right.
And his son looked up at him and goes, "What's Pokemon?" And his father, no joke, actually gave him a Game Boy Color and the old Pokemon games.
Right.
And he had not looked up for it for hours on end. He just played it incredibly.
It's so classic. I mean, we can have a whole episode about those first Pokemon games. I mean, so yeah, I'm not going to go on tangent for it though. Jameson, you continue on your thought because we can go way off on Pokemon.
I remember I had this weird mindset when I was younger that I couldn't follow the crowd, and I remember specifically elementary school, and you might recall this too because I moved here by the tail end of 4th grade and things like that. But I remember being in preschool and elementary school, and it was the mid to late 90s, and so it would make sense that it would be Pokemon Mania. So you had kids were just obsessed with the show, and they had those Burger King toy tie-ins, and everyone's like, "Dude, you gotta catch them all, right?" And I was just I wanted no part of it because because normally you'd think that's how it works, right? That's how you do it, right? With when you're a kid. I misread it. Wait, what?
Sorry.
You misread it, right?
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Anyway,
you know what I find ironic about that? I just want to say it quick. You got those toys. I remember there was one time ever that I even had the opportunity to get those Burger King toys. And I was a huge fan of Pokemon back then.
Oh, yeah,
and they were sold out.
Oh my god.
And I never could get them. And I was so sad. And then
the ones that they served at Burger King?
Jameson has them. Jameson's got them all. No.
Dude, I have a bunch of them.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone had them. I never got them.
Dude, actually, real story. What was
Real
it?
truth.
Real true fact. When we were young, me and a couple of other guys, our parents would take us to Burger King, and we would literally like trade little Pokemon figurines, and it was always like a big event. We did it like maybe once every week, and it was so fun.
Do you think if we just plugged it in, it wouldn't?
No.
All right. Anyway, Jameson, continue on. What do you have more to that, or is there a springboard there, or should we move?
Well, I
to
just remember.
the next part?
I just remember, like the Pokemon, like that's how it would work when you were a kid, right?
Yeah.
You see everyone else in the playground, like, dude, I've got the Pokemon. I'm trading with my friends, via the link cable for the Game Boy. We've got the
remember
toys.
the link cable.
But they've got the trading card game. I mean, it was total immersion. And as a kid, I should have my reaction should have been, holy crap, I gotta get this. Like, this is the bomb.
But it wasn't.
But it wasn't. It was like, why is everyone so obsessed with this? This is so dumb. And what's funny is, I think the reason, because the case was, I was like 10 years behind when it came to, like, I was obsessed with like things from the 80s. So they're all like current. They're like Pokemon, and I'm all like, G.I. Joe and Transformers and Ghostbusters, and so that was
cool.
what.
Yeah,
I wish I would have been interested in that.
Because everyone that I knew, like family wise, and were older, so they had introduced me to the things that they were familiar with.
Right.
So I kind of looked at Pokemon and was like, whatever,
Yeah.
You guys don't know nothing. Optimus Prime for life, bitches.
So you kind of missed that, but what
I did, yeah.
What did you have around that era? Like what were you playing around then? Do you know?
Like I said, I was like it with friends. GoldenEye. I remember being like 6, 7, 8 years old, and I remember just the air of danger, and it was kind of like, is this sort of sexy forbidden fruit? Like, you're 6 years old, and you're playing a T game. You're like, oh yeah, I'm James Bond.
Exactly.
Pew, pew, I'm Odd Job. Pew, I'm too short. Pew, pew. And then, of course, now I look back at it, and it's kind of, I think I was better at GoldenEye then than I was now. Who am I kidding? I was always terrible. But
no, that's fine.
But then, yeah,
none of us are good.
I remember, and then like Star Fox.
It's a hard game.
Yeah.
And then, oh gosh, what else was there? I think there was some.
So, but what were you playing on your consoles? You said you got a PS1. Where does that go? What
did you get for it?
What did you have on your PS1? What did you play in 2001 when you had this thing?
I remember a lot of. See, I didn't really have. I didn't know that there was like this larger world of games. So I wasn't young enough to where I was young where I didn't necessarily have like a magazine or something that I could refer to and say this is what's worth getting. So I think it was kind of, you go with what you know.
Yeah.
So you see Star Wars and you see LucasArts and that was kind of
and you say oh well.
So because that's a sure thing, because when you're a kid and you're kind of traversing through the game store. Or not the game store, but you're going through EB Games or
when that was a
when
thing.
GameStop was EB Games, I remember that. And you know what's interesting about that?
Or Best Buy,
Yeah, well,
Blockbuster.
They changed to EB Games.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I have a story here in a second. Go ahead. I was just thinking it'd be interesting because it's kind of tied to that whole how did I start thing, and you were talking about PS1. You got a PS1 in 2001. Well, I was thinking about it, and it was about in 2001 or a few years after that. I don't know. It was right around then, though. That's when I'd had a Game Boy up until that point, a Game Boy Color, because my mom had given it to me with Pokemon, because I was actually the kid who was really into Pokemon or whatever. But what ended up happening was eventually I had gotten enough money to go and buy my own console. And back then, I thought that was so cool because you don't have very much money as a kid. And I remember right around then, when Jameson was talking about, right around 2001 or something, I went and got myself, right when it was dying as well, the N64. So what's so interesting about that is you had gotten the PS1 at that point, and I had gotten the N64, which I got for about $40. But what I actually ended up picking one of my favorite games with it is Mega Man 64, and that was $10 in box. I still have this box somewhere crushed, and it actually has the price tag of $10 on it. But it was funny because I got it from the EB Games there in the mall that used to be that it's now GameStop. That used to be an EB Games, which is kind of crazy. I mean, it's switched over now and whatnot. So, do you want to expand on PS1, or do you
I think
you can move into your favorite games or.
Oh, favorite games. A lot has happened. I would say. Since then.
Right. Well, I mean, you can elaborate more on that if you want, but some of your favorite games is another thing. So.
Oh, for favorite games, I would say BioShock is probably one of my favorite series.
Yeah, I think we definitely all agree on that one. The first BioShock, at least, we can all agree on.
I think
we're all kind of mixed on the other games. John's sort of more into the second one.
The only reason I really have to that I really liked the second one was I thought the combat was a little bit more enhanced, and I really liked it felt a little bit more strategic on how you because you couldn't get every upgrade for every weapon, so you had to strategically pick and choose. So it was kind of like you didn't have enough Atom to get every plasmid, but now it transferred over into the game that not only did you not have enough for every plasmid, but you only had enough for every gun upgrade.
Well, what happened to me with that game was when I first played the second one, I found that the machines didn't talk anymore. As far as my version, I think it might just be the PS3 version. I don't really know, but they didn't communicate anymore, and it kind of lost a lot of its charm in that process. But then what I found out, what I liked about that game, is that there was such a relationship between you and the big or the little sisters, because at that point that's when you were protecting them and whatnot, and that was a really interesting dynamic to that game. But I think the first one is definitely better. We can definitely all agree that John likes the second one a lot.
I can agree that I like the first one.
The first one is classic, though.
Yeah, it is. And I'm not saying that, I do prefer the second one to the first one, but in that statement, it's actually, and this relates back to it, it's kind of my feeling for how I feel about the Fallout 3 to New Vegas.
Right.
If I never played 3, I never would have played New Vegas. If I never played BioShock 1, I never would have played 2.
And see, that's what I did. I played them all in order because I did
Same.
it so much later.
Oh, yeah, I did too.
So, go ahead, James.
But all I was going to say was, by the time, by 2005, I had the PlayStation 2 for a few years. And I remember being a little apprehensive to the next gen, because it kind of sucks being that kid on the block who nobody I knew immediately had an Xbox 360 at that point. But I remember thinking to myself, what's with this new gen? What's it really matter?
Yeah, what's it gonna do?
And then I saw Dead Rising. That was the first.
You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and level with you on that one. Yeah. Is the first time I ever actually considered getting a 360 was because someone was talking about this game called Dead Rising, where you were in a mall and you were surviving. So cool, you were using anything you could get, and there was psychotic people who would try to deter you from this. Oh, yeah. And I was all like, really? On another console? Okay.
Well, it's interesting because see, it's very sporadic, but what happened to me with the next gen console, I did not care at all until
I didn't either. Yeah.
Until one moment when I was some of my favorite games of all time, my very favorite game of all time that I've decided, and it really doesn't move from that spot on the list ever, is the first Metal Gear Solid game, and I played that as a kid. I'll get into that in a minute, but. I played that as a kid just so much. I loved that game, and I loved that series. And then right around when I'd finished that series, the second and third game, the fourth game got announced, and that was super impressive to see. And I'm like, all right, I don't care what's happening. As soon as this game comes out, the day it comes out, I am buying a PS3. And I'm going to throw down my $400 or whatever the hell I threw down for it. And I'm all in. I'm doing that because I want this. I don't care if this console is just made for Metal Gear Solid 4. This looks super impressive, and that actually became my third favorite game of all time. Used to be my first favorite because it's just such a great game. It's so mind-blowingly awesome for an ending of series. Go ahead, James.
But my moment, was BioShock.
Yeah.
Because the first time when you're playing Crashes and you're in the water and you see that
that lone tower,
that lighthouse
amidst the burning plane wreckage in the ocean
and the water, and you think, oh, that's a really cool cutscene, and then you're like, because it was like a demo or whatever in the store, and you jerk the stick and you're like, oh my god, maybe it was in a store demo. I can't remember the exact details, but I just remember being in that moment where you're like. This is the game.
Cutscenes used to be different from gameplay, and then at that point it was like let's just meld the two.
We didn't have a PC that was like a powerhouse,
right.
and I didn't really know. I wouldn't know what to do with the PC.
Mm-hmm.
People, I'm sure, would have looked at Bioshock and went, "Yeah, that's pretty cool." But for me, it was like this was coming from the console.
Yeah,
it was just I'm like, this is it. Like, I needed this. And then, of course, Arkham Asylum. I remember, like, there was like, you know, there's going to be an extra Batman game, and it's going to be, you know, they were showing images of that, and so early stuff from Arkham Asylum, Dead Rising, and Bioshock was enough for me to go, I need this. It wasn't like I would like this, please. It was I have to have this. So it was never. People might say that, you know, the killer app would be Halo or Gears of War. That was just never really. Not to say, I kind of like the idea of Gears of War. It looked pretty cool.
Yeah, actually, Gears of War I've heard is pretty good.
But it was
actually
never,
me and my girlfriend Alicia. We actually went through all three of them and beat them. I will honestly say I think it's a better cooperative experience rather than played. Yeah,
which actually is interesting because I think now that I think about it, but I don't think this was a game that was on my radar because I didn't do the Resident Evil games until I actually had a PS3. I knew I did them later on when I had a PS3 at some point there, as I did Silent Hill. I had downloaded them or whatever. But once Resident Evil 5 came out, and that game also was pretty impressive for its time. I remember I played a lot of that with you guys and everyone else, but that game was only really pretty good with, you know, a cooperative experience, I think, because the AI was kind of garbage, and but it was still a good game for its time, I feel like, and especially in that hyped moment when I would have been playing all the other Resident Evil games at that point. So yeah, Resident Evil 5 is also another big title for PS3, but a lot of people don't really like that one. But I wager to say that's a good.
It's a good co-op game.
It's a good co-op game. It just steers away from the survival horror. But Jameson, tell us some more of your favorite games. I want to hear about this.
Well, I'm a big fan of survival horror.
Yeah.
Survival horror, but I think I've always been attracted to that kind of genre because like scary movies were scary, and then one day when you're like 12 or 13, they're not. And books didn't really do it for me. And there's something about a game where it's such a visceral experience, and it's just you and the controller, and it's like, wow, you know, talk about chills up and down your spine.
Yeah,
I'm trying to recall.
For me, that game was definitely when I played the first Silent Hill. I'd seen it as a kid, as long as with the Resident Evil games, because my brother had always played them, and I always saw them, but I never got to play them because they were M-rated and really scary, you know. But I would always sneak in and watch him play them, and those scared the shit out of me now. And Silent Hill is still, I'll maintain that the first game is still fucking scary.
I would say I'd say Fatal Frame was probably one of the earliest.
Yeah, I haven't played that one, but I know that's why I haven't played it, because I know it's supposed to be super scary.
Talk about vulnerability, where, you know, I was always used to playing games where you're, you know, the big, strong, you know, just this giant muscle-bound lunk of a person, and you've got this giant gun. Yeah, Resident Evil 5, exactly.
Chris on steroids.
But here you're playing as this little, you know, dainty little Japanese girl, which is not to say there's anything wrong with that.
Oh, Japan!
But you're armed with the camera, and that's your weapon, and you're just.
It's a cool concept.
Oh
though.
Yeah! Oh, it is.
It's kind of like that's weird.
And you have to take a picture. Like, so the whole object of the game is to have that ghost get as close to you as possible. So just
Fatal Frame?
Yeah, we're talking about Fatal Frame.
And I remember even just seeing, like, I remember playing it, certainly, like renting it, and oh yeah, but I remember playing it from like renting it from like Family Video or whatever, and
you don't have to keep doing it. It's
the farm, but. The first time I was ever introduced to something like that would be like X-Play. Like, I don't know if you guys remember G4.
Oh yeah. G4 was classic, but like, here's the weird thing about G4. I don't know if you guys ever experienced this, but like, I had it on channel 11, which was also a Spanish channel, and it would flicker in from G4 to the Spanish channel like consistently, so I could never know when G4 would be on.
John would be pissed.
But yeah, sometimes
because it was still Tech TV, I think, at that point when I first saw it, and he'd be like, you know. Come on!
I did. I watched the shit out of that, though. I loved Icons. I think that's still a really
Icons
classic
was a great
show.
That's kind of where I got my first proper
real taste of video game knowledge from the old school.
Yeah.
That's what I think shows like that and just the internet when that became a big boom for me later on really inspired me to get into some of the retro games. But so Fatal Frame. Well, let's talk about.
Well, yeah, just X-Play would be like, yeah, we're gonna review Fatal Frame, and sure enough, it was just like, wow. It wasn't enough at that point to say I'm comfortable with watching someone play this game, because I had spent so much of my younger years, watching older cousins or friends play the game, and I'm just kind of I'd be watching them. But G4 was kind of my education in the variety of games, and it was also they presented them in such an attractive way, which I suppose is their job certainly, and especially they were selling the product as much as they were talking about it, but
dude, just let it be. It doesn't matter.
Phone,
he's talking about the iPhone. I made a stopwatch thing for it, but it's really becoming
just so we
effective.
know how long we're going. But here's the thing, like.
It keeps fading, and
exactly. Jameson has it. Just let it fade, and if we need to check it, we'll check it.
Okay.
Anyway, continue. So, are you saying Fatal Frame is like some of your favorite games? Then?
Yeah, I'd say Fatal Frame. I think of like Clock Tower, Resident Evil, which has gotten less and less scary.
Right. Resident Evil's not as scary, but I still like the gameplay a lot. I mean, Jameson, you're not as into it. The first one, that is.
Yeah, you showed me D, which I thought was really cool.
D's still pretty. Crazy experience.
In terms of survival horror, I gotta thank Jameson for introducing me to the Condemned series, because I think I've played a lot of horror games. I've played Dead Space, I've played Evil Within, but the only game that I've ever really been actually on point and ready to jump anytime has been the Condemned series.
Right.
And that was just really it just was really interesting because, like I said, I had played Dead Space, which was like a future horror game, and I was told, "Oh, you beat Dead Space, you'll be fine with Condemned," and I was like, "Okay."
That was some of the first. I got Dead Rising. That was one of the first purchases I made from 360.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a smart purchase. That game is legendary.
But then I also, for Christmas, I got Left 4 Dead. I remember that specifically.
Yes.
That year.
I remember that
that'd
too.
be like 2008, I want to say.
I was like, oh yeah, it's just this Left 4 Dead game.
But I got Left 4 Dead, and that was a lot of fun playing that on Xbox Live.
Yeah.
And then I got Dead Space.
Yeah.
Holy crap. It's Christmas, right? And you're just like, this is so... Left 4 Dead was never scary. Left 4 Dead was you'd have horde of zombies. But then you're like, you'd have this big gun, like, get some, But Dead Space was like, oh, holy crap.
You were not meant to be a badass in that game. You were meant to survive by the skin of your teeth.
You got wielding tools, and that's about it. And then...
But I don't have teeth.
And then I got... The other game I got was... my birthday, which is, shortly after Christmas, was Condemned Criminal Origins.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you can tell that there was... I had a very horror-specific, right off the bat, it was, I need to get these games.
Definitely.
But yeah, Condemned was just... Dead Space was bad.
Condemned was worse.
Condemned was way worse.
Because
I remember Fear. I remember my cousins playing Fear. I think they were the same developers, if I recall.
Yeah, it was.
And Fear was scary, but Condemned was just worse.
What I think for me, at least in my opinion, why I thought it was scarier was because the game was a lot visually darker. Every place that you went into was dimly lit. You didn't know when an enemy was going to come out and attack you, and you literally had to listen for those footsteps, or you were just kind of lost in the wind.
Yeah, there ended up being a real strategy to it at times, because, if as soon as you started moving a little too, if there was a little bit more spring in your step, or, if you just kind of went into an area all willy-nilly, you'd probably end up with, someone just kind of beating you to death or something, and that was, that was...
Right.
That was terrifying.
So, what else? What are some of your other favorite games? I know there's at least one more I can think of.
Oh, this is the part where I talk about The Last of Us?
Yeah.
We've all played it. In this circle, we've all played it. Let me
tell this story about how this happened. Because none of these guys had played it until I really one time, I don't remember who really turned me on to it, but just a lot of people, I think it was the All Gen Gamers, they were really talking about it, and I was just like, you know what? This is like 2014, I think, Christmas, or no, 2013 Christmas. Was it? I don't remember. It was one of those years for Christmas, and I was like, you know what? This is, it must have been 13. It must have been 13, yeah. So it was kind of after everyone had played it, and I was just like, you know what? I think I want to do this game. I think I'm going to actually, this looks pretty good. And so I got it, and I was blown away by it. I finished this whole game in like a day and a half. Like if I hadn't had to have sleep or school the next day, I would have finished the game that night. It was just insane. It was like I got to the dam, which is like halfway through the game or something.
Oh,
like in the first
yeah.
day. Like first day, no problem, because I was just so into it. And then I played it, and I got to the end, and I was just like, oh my god, my friends need to play this. So I go and I introduce it to Jameson, and he kind of, he's busy, so he kind of put it on the back burner. But once he finally got to it, oh my god,
as soon as school was done for that semester, and it was just like summer.
And then he's like, John, you have to play this.
Was it
you or Nick first?
I think
it was me, because
Okay.
I asked to play it because I was like, look, I have someone who has a PS3.
Right.
I kind of want to play this because I've heard this is really good.
We're going to talk about that guy.
Yeah, we'll talk about that guy.
As soon as like I got that taste of The Last of Us, I ran out. I bought it. I got like $20 too.
No, I got it for you.
That's right.
It's actually funny because I was out and about. You can get that for $16 now. Do you know that?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
insane.
Worth it.
But it was up for like 30 for like months and months. I probably for that past half a year.
I don't do
and
that.
then it was like $40 or $30 at the time. And then like I find this copy for $20 at Disc Replay, which was a store we really love because they've got such great prices around here. But anyway, so I found this copy for $20, and I'm like, oh my god, Jameson, it's $20. And he's like, oh my god, just get it for me, and I did. And so that's how he got his copy. But and then he started lending that around, I think, to everyone else.
Yeah.
And then, so he lent it to John, and then John played it through, and he's like, oh my god. And then our friend Nick, he played it through, and then very last of all, like usual, was Mayab, he played it through. And we all, on this game, just adored this game.
We agreed it was good.
We all just loved this game. We spent like weeks and weeks just discussing and analyzing this game. The Last of Us is such a good game. Sorry, I'm a big fan of you, Digibro, but fuck you, because The Last of Us is awesome. I don't know what you're talking about. You say it's some generic game. No, The Last of Us is an amazing game. It's one of the greatest games I've ever played, for sure. I know it's on my top 20 list, but
I'd go as far as to say my top 10.
Yeah. For you, it probably is. I just have a lot of other games that I've played. And see, that's the thing. I'll get into that in a minute when Jameson's done with his favorites, but we'll kind of get into my history and whatnot, but I'll have to try to make it brief. But go ahead.
Oh,
Last of Us.
Last of Us, yeah.
We'll definitely talk about that more in depth some other time, because that's such a fantastic game.
I mean, I'm a big fan of first-person shooters. Believe it or not, though, I'm not a huge fan of like Call of Duty or Halo. There it is again, my old roots of I can't do anything.
I mean, it's becoming stale.
It is.
It's just.
I did like.
By this point, it's too.
Did like what?
I did like Killzone on the original PlayStation 2, and then I kind of picked that up when I got to PS3.
Yeah.
And that's always fun. I enjoy that. Or like Resistance. I'm
gonna agree with you on that. I played through all three of them, and I do have to say I don't often get attached to like the whole of a series, but I do feel that Resistance was one of the sole exceptions.
I really liked there's some great underrated gems for the first person shooter. I think like Darkness. That was really good.
Yeah, Darkness 1 and 2, which to go ahead, it's based off of a comic by a producer called Top Cow, but long story short, 1 and 2 were really good first-person shooters, and I will recommend both of them highly. They were really fun to play, the story was great, the voice acting was fantastic, and honestly, they're both worthwhile games, even if the second one feels a little bit too unnaturally short, but that's just my opinion.
And then, I can't believe I didn't even mention. Oh gosh, it slipped my mind. It's a great game. Max Payne isn't a first-person shooter. I always liked Max Payne when I was younger. That was, again, cousins, and they're horrible influence.
Right.
Oh, I'm missing one. I know.
First or third?
Max Payne.
No, the one you're thinking of that's slipping your mind.
Gosh, this is so boring. I can't even think of it. But
Well,
I mean, let's say Doom or Quake or that was
obviously.
always great.
Wolfenstein.
Wolfenstein.
Do you want to give it a second to so you can think of that?
Oh yeah.
While we go into
I do have
John's
a
part.
story about those two games actually. The first Doom. I don't know if it was the first Doom. I think it was the first Doom. Pretty sure it was the first Doom. Anyway, that was actually the first M-rated game I ever played. I remember one time.
Represent.
But yeah, my brother kind of just handed it off to me. He's like, "Here, do you want to play it?" When my parents were out, of course, because it's one of those games that you aren't exactly allowed to play when you're younger. And this is like 2nd or 3rd grade, so I was just a little kid at that point, and so. So I mean that and Wolfenstein 3D. I played the shit out of those games back in the day, and those are definitely absolutely classic games for the PC. You got.
Oh, I couldn't think of the first-person game, which is terrible.
No, but yeah, the other one.
Oh, like Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
There you go. Oh, I love Devil May Cry. I can't even.
Gotcha.
Not DMC though.
Oh my god.
I've heard it's not that terrible.
I
We'll
did
get
not
into it some other
care,
time.
Now, granted, I thought. No, the story was bad. The story was not good for DMC. I'll have to get into it some other time, but I did not like.
Well, we could do a whole episode on games we all disagree on. BioShock Infinite and the definition of an RPG.
I like this.
Whatever.
Yeah.
RPG is RPG.
Then whatever. So,
DMC was lame.
anything else you want to mention about yourself? Because
we gotta cut into him first.
The thing, because I'm gonna take a minute, obviously. The thing about you is that you're kind of a mix of both of us. John's kind of a modern gamer. You're kind of a modern.
But I can appreciate some of the older stuff. I was going to say, next episode we might want to consider doing because there seems to be some disagreement. Obviously, I took the plunge. I enjoy this game. You guys are haters.
Oh shit!
Oh god!
I actually quite enjoyed. I think it's a cinematic treat. I really enjoyed. He's rolling his eyes already. I really enjoyed Beyond Two Souls.
Boo!
What?
Yeah, I liked that.
Oh
game.
god! No, hold on a second. Oh my god, this will make an amazing next episode. We have to. Okay, cliffhanger. Dun dun dun.
Games that we've liked that other
Holy
people
shit!
have just
You liked
hated.
Beyond Two Souls?
Liked Beyond Two Souls.
Nobody liked that game.
And I own them. They're upstairs. And I also liked Heavy Rain.
Well, everyone loved Heavy Rain, but nobody liked Beyond Two
No,
Souls.
not everyone loved Heavy Rain.
Not you, but most people loved Heavy Rain.
I'll put it this way: is it as good? Is it as good as The Last of Us? No, but I think it really shows off the power of.
I'm going to be interested in hearing about that.
Yeah,
we have to cut it there. We have to have this as a cliffhanger for the next episode. That's amazing. I can't believe that. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Maybe you should play Remember Me. A lot of people hated that game.
God, don't.
Oh God, no.
No, well, that's what everyone said about Beyond Two Souls.
But
Anyway,
let's pull back. John, what about you?
Okay, yeah. So the thing with me, more recently, it was like a year or two ago. I really, really just dove to retro because I started getting into the stuff online. The Angry Video Game Nerd and Pat the NES Punk and all that. And I started watching their videos, and I was really into it. I really got into it. I used to play a lot of N64, like I was saying. That's kind of where I started with Game Boy and then N64. And I watched my brother play a lot of PS1 and whatnot back in the day. And, back then I played a lot of Metal Gear Solid, which is interesting because actually that game was a game that I had never... Yeah, I never played it. I'd only played the demo on a Pizza Hut disc back in the day, and I played that demo so much because my brother and my parents were like, well, this is too violent for him, obviously. He's too young for this. And then one day, my brother was like, hey, do you want to play the actual game? You've played this demo a lot of times, and it just blew my mind. I'm like, I can play the actual game now? Are you kidding me? And I just loved that game. I never finished it as a kid, but I did finish it later on. Fantastic game, my favorite game of all time. So basically, what kind of gamer I am nowadays anyway is more I got into the retro games, and for some reason the NES really stuck with me. The original Nintendo from 1985 really captivated me, and I think it's because back in the day my brother had a Nintendo, and I could never play it because the carts were always very temperamental, and so he wouldn't let me really handle it because he thought I was a stupid kid or something, apparently. So, but something about that really stuck with me, and I'm like, the NES is really cool, and all of these, these guys, these retro reviewers were talking about it, and I was just like, I have to really dive in on this NES. So around 2012, I really dove in on the NES, and I really got into it, and I started playing some of the classic games, the Metroids and the Mario and Castlevanias and the Mega Mans and whatnot, and I just loved it. I really enjoyed that. So now, around 2013, I think the summer of that, I decided to I wanted to try to go for a complete NES set. So that's kind of what I'm going after now. And the NES isn't even one of my favorite. I mean, it's one of my favorite consoles, but it's not even nearly my favorite console. And I mean, that could be a whole nother episode. Is just our favorite consoles and like what games we love on them. But basically, so that's what I'm trying to do now. And I got into a lot of the older retro stuff. I dove in on the Saturn and whatnot, and because I've heard that's great from people like Happy Console Gamer and whatnot, and so I like a lot of those games as well. But it's weird. I'm not really into the Super Nintendo, but I like the N64 because I had that during that era. It's one of those. Like I said, it was the first console I ever bought with my own money, so it's really the first console that was ever mine to have. And back then, I also, on the Game Boy, I also really got into Pokemon, like I said. But the second game I got for my Game Boy was Dragon Warrior 1 and 2, and that got me into that series. So around the PS2 era, I was really interested in Dragon Quest at this point, and Dragon Warrior was the name of the that they called it in America for the longest time. And then when Dragon Quest 8 came out, they had switched it over to the Dragon Quest name like it was in Japan. And that game was excellent. Blew my mind back then. The PS2 game, it was one of the best PS2 games I ever had. I must have sunk, hundreds of hours into it. On one playthrough, you can sink hundreds of hours. And then I did it again in high school. I just played through the whole game again, and I actually beat everything in that game. On the second playthrough, I did all the dragon trials at the end and whatever. It was ridiculously hard, but I did it. So I mean, that was one of my favorite games. I actually have a giant poster of that in my room. It's not a poster really. It's a decal that you would hang on like a window in a game store, basically. So that I think that's pretty cool. I love Dragon Quest VIII. That's probably my favorite RPG game. And then more recently, I've gotten into more games like. So I like a lot of RPGs. That's one genre I like, but it has to be done well, which we can get into that another time. Final Fantasy 13 and all that. And the only reason so just so there's not a cliffhanger, the only reason I actually have to play that and beat that is because our friend Mav is actually playing Dragon Quest VIII, which you just heard is one of my favorite games, and one of his favorite games for some reason. It'll mystify us till the end of time. One of his favorite games is Final Fantasy 13. I will never understand. I'll never understand it, but I never will I understand it. It's ridiculous. And
I think you played 13 too. Remember we went to Wisconsin?
Yeah, and we went to my dad's cabin, and all he did all weekend was play Final Fantasy 13 2 in my dad's cabin's basement.
I think that's like step 1 through 30 on how to.
We at least hung out and like went outside and
go play Final Fantasy
13
we watched movies together and all this stuff.
I come downstairs, he's just fucking in Chocobo Love Town,
But
Chocobo Love, Chocobo.
So yeah, the Dragon Quest series really means something to me. How can I forget? On the PS1, which is a really it's kind of an uncommon game now, but back then they were really trying to push it. Is my one of my favorite games? Is my second favorite game of all time. Is Tomba, which I had as a
Tomba.
Child. Tomba is definitely one of the most unique games I think I've ever played, and it's certainly one of my favorites just because I know all the secrets and I played the shit out of it back in the day, and I actually played it so much that my first original disc of Tomba that I had from back then got so scratched up because I wouldn't actually take very good care of it. And my parents always warned me about this too. They're always like, "Oh, take very good care of your games, otherwise they're gonna, scratch up or whatever." I'm so, "Oh yeah, whatever, it's fine." But no, it got so scratched it wouldn't actually play at that point. And more recently, I got that resurfaced, so it sort of plays now. It has a few glitches in it, but that game is fantastic. It's one of my favorites. It's so unique. And,
I'll agree to that.
It's so very just so fantastic. I'm glad you enjoyed it because I didn't really know what you had thought of it when you played it back then. But it's really a game you have to get into.
Yeah.
It's a very long. It's not long, but it's like there's a lot to it. There's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, you do missions and whatnot, and it's a really good game. But I won't harp too much on that one. But you know what's interesting about that game? I don't know if it was actually Tomba or if I'm thinking wrong and it was actually like some other game like Spyro or something. But I swear, since there's not a lot of information on this game, but I swear that Tomba is a game that I got through a cereal promotion on a box. Like a box of cereal, and you had to send away like enough of these box tops or something to get Tomba. And I swear it was there. I'll never have any evidence to prove it, but I can swear there must have been there. I remember it being there, which is crazy because the thing about that game was I played it on a different demo disc that wasn't from Pizza Hut. It was from PlayStation Magazine or something, and I played the crap out of it there. And in my later years, around the PS2 era, my game, like I said, was in disrepair, so I had to actually go and search for it. And Tomba's not an easy game to find, so it took me forever. I just eventually bought a copy on eBay, a really mint copy, but people laughed at me. They were like, "Oh, you want Tomba? Well, we just sell new games, And it's like, well, screw you guys then, I mean, but so that was a great game. And more recently, I think some of the games that stood out to me more recently are some of the ones that these guys recommended, the BioShocks and The Last of Us, I guess I recommended to them.
With your BioShocks and your...
Dark Souls.
They didn't make me do BioShock, but I'm not going to get into that. But they recommended I do BioShock once I asked them about it.
And you did the whole thing.
I did them all, and I really enjoyed those games. And then I did The Last of Us. I really enjoyed that game a lot. But one that I found out about because of the Vita, which we're going to go into a little bit later if we ever get through everything here. But the Vita, which I actually have, and I actually really think that's a really underrated console. And I'm so sad it's not really doing very well. But because of the Vita, everyone was saying the best game on the Vita was Persona 4, which is an RPG I'd never played before. And I was really interested in this game because it was sort of like Majora's Mask, where you go and you sort of can interact with people and you can sort of just do your own thing, which is another game, Majora's Mask, which I've really enjoyed in the N64 days. But Persona 4, which I played more recently, and that's another game that really stood out to me, and that would just blew me away. I finished the whole game in a week. The whole game I finished in a week. And I remember it. It's one of the greatest gaming experiences I'll ever have is the Persona 4, finishing it in a week. Because it took me a long time to finish Persona 3. But, so the Persona games, at least 3 and 4, are some of my favorites now also. And so yeah, I'm really more of a retro gamer. And I'm not really as into the new games because I feel like they've lost a lot of soul. And this is kind of a nice segue. So what do you guys think about current games now, the current generation of gaming, and where gaming is going? Where is it going? Also, what do you guys think about that? Go ahead.
Well, I guess it's sort of a mixed bag for me. I mean, like, definitely I've seen games that have come out within, like, the last year, like, that have been real flops. Like, and, I don't care who really disagrees with me on this, but games like, what was...
The Order 1886.
The Order 1886.
Yeah.
a game that was more focused on trying to utilize the PS4 that I'm pretty convinced they forgot how to make a game.
Assassin's Creed Unity.
Assassin's Creed Unity being choppy as fuck when it came out.
Terrible.
Another really...
What's some of the other famous real duds that they've made? There's got to be another one, right? I can't think of them. But...
For what? The Assassin's Creed? Next gen. It's on the tour.
What's that game? Sunset Overdrive.
Sunset Overdrive was... A lot of people want to say it's okay, but I'm going to take the Angry Joe stance on this one and say, when I first saw it, I didn't think much of it, and after I saw somebody beat it, I still didn't think much of it. I mean, if this was somebody's dream product, then I kind of think that their dream needs a little bit of an overdrive of its own.
Nice. But here's the thing about that is, and I agree. I mean, there's a lot of games, but most of them are just really okay. You know, they're either terrible or just okay, but they have a lot of promise in the future. You know, we have Persona 5 maybe coming out.
Bloodborne that has already come out.
Bloodborne, which actually can be considered probably the first real next-gen game that has... That's really a showpiece. That's really going to show what we're in for the next generation.
Like, this was...
And that is a good game. That's not, just some tech demo. It's an actual game. That's not just some generic shooter.
It's an actual game that makes you think. Like I said earlier, I played and beat Dark Souls 1, and I don't care how hard it was, I loved it. It actually made me think about what I was doing, and it made me, strategize and utilize what I could find, which a lot of what Bloodborne is based from Dark Souls itself. Yeah. And that's really, right now, that's one of the big games I'm looking forward to, other than Arkham Knight, which I am hoping is good, because, like my friend Fu over here said, he played Asylum, and I played...
Just calling him Jameson the whole time.
Yeah, we have.
He's basically...
I'm still going to I'm going to utilize both names.
Yeah. Now I'm Fu.
Now he's Fu.
Anyway.
I played Arkham Asylum, City, and Origins, and I liked all three of them, so I'm kind of hoping that this one does it really good, too.
Let's hope Knight is worth...
Let's hope Knight is good, because, I mean, with the loss of... Well, not the loss, I guess that's kind of being overdramatic, but with the old Joker voice not returning to be the Joker voice...
Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill no longer being the Joker.
So, to refocus this a bit, what...
Right.
So, what about Assassin's Creed Unity and Sunset Overdrive and, what was the other one?
Order 1886.
Order 1886. Well, what about these games is different now from the older games... Even from last generation, even from the PS3 era, that's making these games so hard to maybe create or so hard to be good games?
Well, see, I'm living on the premise that being original, which in a lot of gamers' eyes is very important, is kind of becoming harder to do as the days go by. I mean...
Okay, that's one way.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, it's a lot of these games that are coming out nowadays seem to be they're trying to be original, but they're just kind of falling short. Assassin's Creed Unity, for one, was kind of a rehash of a backstory of another character. The graphics didn't work. The multiplayer, the cooperative, is more or less like the multiplayer from the older games, which... I never really was a fan of.
But I don't see that as the core of the issue. What I see as the core of the issue, what we're really avoiding here, is the fact that these games are not, maybe not Order 1886 or Sunset Overdrive, but we're talking Assassin's Creed Unity here.
Are broken on release.
Broken on release, and they think that they can go in and change it later on. And back in the cartridge days, you couldn't do this unless you released a new version of the game that's another version, or even in up until maybe the PS2 days, you couldn't do this. You could only do this more recently in the last generation and this generation, which is it's such a bad...
It's a really bad trend. And honestly, again, I hate to keep name dropping, but I do think that Angry Joe is right, that this sudden trend of developers being able to release games in a broken state and expecting their gamers to wait for patches is criminal and insulting. I really think that people should believe in making games that you don't have to wait for patches as soon as they hit the gate.
Yeah.
A game should be working as soon as it released.
And they're taking our $60 to $70 for these games that right away. And I mean, they're only going to drop in price anyway. But that's not the point. The point is that they're taking our hard-earned money to give us
releasing a half-baked product.
Yeah, a half-baked product. Releasing a broken game that they're supposedly going to fix later, but a lot of the times they don't fix it later.
I'm not one who advocates piracy, certainly, but it's interesting to me that developers are so worried, not developers specifically, but more publishers, certainly like EA or Activision.
Yeah.
They're so worried about piracy when it comes to games. But the thing you have to remember is this is you wouldn't go to a dealership and buy a car and get half a car, right?
Right.
Right.
You know, it's only
exactly. It's like going and buying a car with like an engine that's broken. Or
exactly.
Something.
It's only with
or literal
gaming,
half of a car.
Right. It's only with gaming that we're seeing more and more of as you've been saying, just half baked jobs, and it's something that I think it's pressure from the publisher on developers.
Yeah.
They are giving them an extraordinarily short amount. They're giving them a cycle for production that is just, it's not. They don't have the time to, make that effort to put in everything to make a great game. And we're going to start seeing that more and more, where developers are, these games are extremely expensive to produce now, which wasn't the case even 10 years ago. Well,
yeah,
maybe not 10 years ago, but certainly 15 years ago.
That's certainly another problem, is that the games are getting multi-million, billion-dollar
funding.
Well, not even
not
that.
billion, but still millions. When you're spending hundreds of millions,
you're spending millions. I mean, what was Grand Theft Auto 5 like? 200?
It was $200 and some million.
Yeah, millions of dollars spent on this game.
I think Fu's going to look it up.
I'm sure it's a great game.
I know better, but
I used to know
when you have to spend that much money on a game, and you're not going to even break even most of the time.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
I mean,
and what? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Certainly, the disclaimer here is that GTA did break even. GTA 5 did break even.
GTA 5 did great, but not
only
every
because
game is going to be GTA 5.
Because not every game that comes out of the gate is going to be a highly popular on-demand game.
Right.
Like if you think of GTA going way back when, everybody knew it was coming out. Everybody wanted it, so that's the only reason a game like that succeeded at $200 and some odd million, because people wanted that game.
And here's the other thing about that. I mean, shoot, I lost it.
Sorry.
It was, well, so, I mean, okay, so then, I've got it. So here's the thing. There's two things I want to say. So, while Jameson was saying his piece, I thought of something. It was that we're not getting physical games anymore. We are, but that game, me and Jameson have talked about this before, that game is just basically a PC game. It's like a disc where you can only download that game, because you have to download the full game onto your system, which doesn't even have that much space to begin with. So for real collectors someday, this is going to be a huge issue because trading out hard drives isn't always the easiest thing to do, and even if it was, you shouldn't have to do that. That means you have to keep additionally buying hard drives for all these games that you want to play. Back in the PS3 days, you didn't have to do that. That was one generation ago, where you download a little piece of something that as the game installed to your system, and that can take up a little bit of space, but it doesn't take up 50 gigabytes. You don't download the whole game generally unless you're downloading the game. And that's the other thing. I mean, I get that they push these titles, and then they're pushing digital now, but at the same token, if they're pushing digital, they should not be charging us $60 for these games.
As a matter of fact, I just looked
because
it up.
of physical items.
I just looked it up on Amazon.
Yeah.
You could buy the physical disc for brand new for Beyond Two Souls, They have it for your favorite. They have it for $15. Well, if you buy the same game, mind you, but you buy it as a digital code that you could then go to the PlayStation Store and then download it. It's $39.99. So, in what world does that make sense? And that's most
what
games.
The hell?
If you look at
look at Xbox Live Marketplace too. A game that I could walk out right now and get for maybe $10.
Yeah.
I'd
still have to pay $20 on Market.
I almost wonder, it's like, do they treat it as like it's a convenience fee? Like you don't have to go to the store. Like I'm gonna go to the store anyway.
And that also seems criminal too.
That's still too high to pay for a game that I'm not going to get a physical copy of. Especially nowadays when they're charging still physical copy prices and they're giving you a disc, but first of all, you don't get a manual. Oh, sorry. You don't get a manual.
What's with that anymore?
I mean, the Vita, just to mention that quickly, the Vita games, the boxes have a little flap or like a little piece for the manual where you can slide it in. But I've never, ever once seen a manual, and you know what? That's because they don't have manuals. The only thing I've ever seen in one was Hot Shots Golf, and that was a little insert that was like a download code, and that's it.
Oh,
they don't have manuals anymore, but they have the slots for them still. And so you don't get a manual. You get a box, okay. You get this disc that has the game on it, but okay, what's that matter? You're just going to have to download it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little bit ridiculous in my eyes. And then the other thing is, I was thinking about it, and I'm like, well, a lot of the indie games are selling a lot better now. The retro-inspired games, the Shovel Knights and and those kind of
neo retro games are really making a comeback.
Or you think of Splunky or
Hotline Miami,
or like you think of like even quirky ones where we live in a world where, like I just found it says here that, and this is from Cinema Blend, so I don't know that how accurate this is. But it costs, when you consider, in addition to developing and producing the game, if you include marketing in that in their overall total, it costs Rockstar $265 million
to
make
Grand Theft Auto. And this was saying that, and again, this is from Cinema Blend, so I don't know how accurate this is, but they were saying, just for reference, Gears of War cost $10 million. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, just think about that. And Uncharted 3, which was a critically acclaimed game from Naughty Dog,
in my opinion.
They spent $25 million.
Right.
Heavy Rain cost $20 million, and then another $20 million to market it. So,
right.
So when you're spending $265 million, and it gets to this point where, it's either this game has to be a hit, otherwise
flop.
They're flopped. But and we're speaking of
and here's the thing I was saying
is
that these retro-inspired games and stuff like that don't take as much to produce. I can't imagine any of one of those games, let alone all of them, probably costed $1 million to produce. Even $1 million. Not $200 million or 65 or 25 or any of that. $1 million. I don't think any of those games cost $1 million. I don't even think probably any of them cost more than $100,000 to produce. And these retro indie games that some guy could make in his basement. The big companies. I'm just saying. Okay.
Yeah.
The big companies could be making these for way significant, like a tenth of a percentage, 1% maybe of what they're spending on these big budget titles, and yet they still don't. And that's the thing. I mean, and we can all see that would sell well. I mean, look at Mega Man 9 and look at Mega Man 10 and all that kind of stuff from Capcom. That's an actual Capcom developed game, and those sold like really well. Really super well. I mean, I don't understand why they don't release a Mega Man Legends 3 because that's. But I'll get into that
People
in a
would
little bit. But the fans would just buy that like no other. But that would not take them like that many millions of dollars to produce, especially on the 3DS, which is the 3DS and the Vita are kind of maybe what those bigger companies are trying to put their lesser expensive games on because they're handhelds and they don't take as much to develop because they're more like N64 GameCube level of graphics and whatnot. So, but I don't see why developers don't go into that market and do a little bit more of that, especially on the consoles, because Shovel Knight and games like that show that gameplay matters more than aesthetics, but the aesthetics on that game show that retro is also a big thing.
I want to actually comment on that. back to the whole, like, what games didn't work, to the whole, like, Order 1886. It's like I was saying, that game seemed more like a tech demo.
Exactly, because they're trying to push the graphics in.
Yeah, and I mean, to that game's credit, the graphics are phenomenal. It's a real utilization of the 4th gen. But when they were doing that, I feel that they forgot that they were also making a game.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah, there's shooter, and there's everybody's favorite fucking QuickTime events left and right. That's another story for another time, but...
They were good in Shenmue.
Go ahead. And God of War. But, I don't think that game justifies its existence without having an actual game to it. Because I remember when the game was first being marketed that it was supposed to be this huge, gothic, steampunkish, like, sort of like Castlevania in the other, like, in another, like, alternate universe. Like, I remember first seeing it and I was like, whoa, that game looks cool. I'm hunting werewolves in London with, like, new steampunk weapons and stuff. I always thought, that was so cool. But then when... I remember my opinion for the game really dropped when someone said that the game was beat in 4 hours, or 6 hours. And then I remember that there was a bunch of, like, damage control saying, oh no, that was somebody who...
Speedrunned it.
Speedrunned it, and then seeing another... Again, dropping his name again. Yeah. Angry Joe saying that he literally... That entire game took him only 4 hours to do.
Right.
Is just... It doesn't... I really think that game is proof that developers are too focused on trying to make their games like the next big picture Steven Spielberg esque game.
I'm glad you brought that up. I want to say one thing about the price and all of that. Metal Gear, what was that? Was it Ground Zeroes? Yeah. Bullshit. That price was bullshit. But anyway, that's not what I want to get on. We're forgetting the big one. The
Metal Gear.
No, hold on. The motherfucker of all freaking big games that were hyped for next gen. This was supposed to, other than Titanfall, I forgot about that one. But see, we forget about it because it wasn't good. But here's the thing, and some people will disagree with me here, but I think for the most part, most people are going to agree with this one, and that is Destiny. We think about that. That was supposed to be the really
that was supposed to be Bungie's comeback title. That was supposed to be their look at us separate ourselves.
Yeah. And this is the amalgamation of everything wrong with games now, because they're basically their excuse for this game was, hey, we're going to give you part of the game, and then later on, like a year down the road, we're going to give you expansions, which are basically the rest of the game. And even those expansions I've heard aren't very good. Full disclaimer, I don't think any of us have actually played this game.
I will jump in on that because I don't want to ruin credibility. I played the beta and 5 minutes of the actual game.
Right.
The way the beta was set up was not how the game eventually released. I honestly can say that Destiny was not my cup of tea when it actually came out.
Here's the thing about that. I mean, we have a friend who played it, but that guy... No offense to Maya, but he's kind of an idiot when it comes to games. He buys these games because he thinks they're going to be great. He bought a PS4 over this, I think.
Which I'm going to be buying. For
whatever reason. Yeah, which he's selling to John because he's an idiot. He realized that he doesn't need a PS4 because he's not very much of a gamer to begin with.
Disclaimer. The only reason I'm getting it is for Bloodborne at this moment in time.
Yeah, and that's fine. I think there will be games in the future.
And
probably. But I'm just saying, for right now, there is like... Really, there's so many problems with the next gen, and it's just, I think older games had this whole thing. To just kind of wrap it up nicely, I think older games with the physical media and the more tight gameplay, because they were actually putting resources into the gameplay rather than the graphics and trying to push that. Older games, these games are some of the Heaven Blade and what's that?
Heavenly Sword?
Yeah. Because that was like an early PS3 game, or like Red Steel 1, where that these are the games that they're trying to push they're like they're trying to push what the systems can do and show us early on, but they're not really much of games, and a lot of people probably remember that fondly, and a lot of people probably like Destiny, but I know that Destiny is a disappointment because you're only getting part of a game, and that to me is a big issue, that they're only giving you a piece of a game, expecting you to pay full price for it, and later on pay more, and then invest all of these hours and all of hundreds of hours of time into it and whatnot. And that's a problem. That's a problem for me, and I don't think anybody should really be on board with that. But hey, if you like the PS4 and whatnot, good on you. You have it. Go for it.
I will be joining you guys soon.
Do that, and maybe in the future I'll have to get one for Persona 5 if the PS3 version is not very good, but Atlas I think will handle it well because I actually trust Atlas as a company. I think Atlas is one of the best companies nowadays because they still are making quality games. So, Jameson, do you have any final thoughts on the subject, or should we move on to the news?
I think, games... You could easily spend a whole episode on just going over.
Could.
Yeah.
That's why I'm trying to...
wrap up nice.
Wrap it up so we can...
Wrap it up. Well, let's just say...
do you have any final thoughts, early?
I think for the future of gaming, I think that...
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that. Where is gaming going?
Gaming, for me right now, I kind of see it as an odd... Where it's sitting in time right now is sort of an odd placement for it to be. I hope that it evolves better. Oh, Evolve, another game that didn't really do well. Totally forgettable.
We're not going to remember Titanfall or Evolve or any of that someday.
Yeah, I mean...
Okay, that was one more thing. They're too insistent on online play nowadays, and those online play, as we've been showing through these companies that are taking down the online games on like PS2 games and stuff, where people are trying to bring them back. Those aren't going to last forever, and so Titanfall will just be nothing someday.
Just like Evolve, like Destiny. Because unfortunately, for Destiny, it's going to suffer from the common symptom that a lot of MMORPGs falter with.
Right.
It'll eventually die out, and eventually people are going to stop playing.
Yeah, because it can't beat Call of Duty. So, very quickly, where do you think gaming is going?
Like I said earlier, it's in an odd place right now, and I really want games to grow up. Right now, I want developers to grow up. And what do I mean by this? I'm not exactly happy with a lot of the practices that I've seen. Like, just to rattle off a few, if you don't mind. With Evolve, as we currently mentioned, to have the full version of that game, Season Pass, the game itself, DLC entitled, it was estimated that you would have had to have paid $213 for the whole game.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Assassin's Creed Unity was a game that was botched on release, that they decided that they would allow glitches and everything to run wild in this game, where its last gen cousin, Assassin's Creed Rogue, popped out
was
the better game.
Yeah.
And you can all argue with this, but no, it's fact.
I think that's a beautiful analogy right there, that Assassin's Creed Rogue was the better game of the two because they knew how to do it on that console, and they tried to do Unity and it didn't work.
Rogue,
they need to spend more time on it and possibly more money. I don't know that that's necessarily what they need to spend on it.
What they should have done was just donated more time to it.
Yeah, they just need to spend more time on it. Another thing I wanted to say about what you were just saying about buying things. Stop it with the character, like fighting games where you have to buy the characters.
Mortal Kombat X, come on.
Capcom.
Yeah, Capcom and whatnot. But no, the worst the worst offender of this I remember was Killer Instinct for the new one for
really?
Microsoft, because they started you with one character and you had to buy all of the rest of them.
What?
Yeah. You had to buy all of the rest of them. There's a $60 version in stores where it was like the what do they call it? The
Master Pack, Collector's Edition.
There's something in Killer Instinct, but anyway, it's some kind of fatality. That's Mortal Kombat. There's some kind of killer combo or something pack where you could get them all, but that was like a $60 retail game.
See, and
which is dumb.
That's another thing I want to bring up. That there was also, and also Mortal Kombat X is guilty of this. Microtransactions in games need to stop.
Absolutely.
I can understand it for iPhone games because it's not as, I guess, hardcore as this. But Mortal Kombat X, Dragon Age Inquisition, future games that want to try this policy, I'm talking to you here. You're the big boys. You need to put on your big boy pants and need to act like adults to the people that you are supposed to be marketing to. We don't want to pay more for a game that we already paid for. Season Pass, I can understand. Because there's other stuff that you might not have had time to put in the game, but you wanted to implement. I can understand that, and that's totally fine. Worthwhile DLC, such as anything from Skyrim, Fallout 3, New Vegas. I can understand this.
Don't use that as your crutch.
Do not use... Exactly, thank you. Do not use DLC as your crutch. Like... I'm seeing games like Bloodborne. I'm seeing games like Dark Souls. They don't rely on DLCs to be their crutch because they are powerful games that stand up on their own.
A lot of people put a lot of good time into that, and it's time and effort. And don't use DLC as your crutch.
Do not use DLC as your crutch.
No microtransactions.
Do not use microtransactions as a way in order to get more money from your customers.
Stop canceling fucking games.
Yeah, stop canceling
which we'll get
games.
into in a second.
Exactly. But yeah.
I trade it in the closet.
But what I'm trying to say is that right now, as I see games, I see it as a very slippery slope. I'm seeing games that are falling down to the whole Ubisoft EA level, right. Pay us for extra stuff because fuck you, give me your money. And I'm seeing games like Bloodborne and Dark Souls rise above everything. Yeah, I'm using that as a talking point, Sumi. I'm seeing those rise up because they don't need massive content release packs. That they're games that by themselves are just fine.
Yes.
And DLC only enhances them further because the game being as great as it was by itself and having to see more stuff come along to it, that is so cool, and I like seeing that.
Yes.
But the bottom line is that where Future is right now, unless someone decides to say, no microtransactions, hey, let's finish our games, or, let's actually put thought into our games, if we don't see a trend that, breaks the mold and actually works on, making their games, I don't see it going anywhere well, but right. For my personal opinion, I hope it gets better.
We're running a little long on this, but here, Jameson, I want you to say for just a minute, because you've talked about this before, where game consoles, you saw this as like going away, and you saw these like boxes taking over or whatever. You would just have something called the PS5. It's just like a little box that's like a streaming thing. Do you still believe that, or?
I think the future of gaming, it's a little bit cloudy. It's difficult to tell exactly, but...
Is it in the clouds?
It's probably in the cloud.
Stop, Ken Kunoragi. Just go on.
It's in the cloud, man. It's always been in the cloud.
With anti-aliasing and cell processors. Yeah, okay.
But it's we're moving towards a digital future with gaming, whether we care to admit it or not. And right. I think in terms of accessibility and ease of use, that's a very exciting thing. But
no,
I have serious reservations about. You think about PT being removed from the PlayStation.
Are we going to go into that now?
Well, maybe we will. That segues into our next bit.
Okay.
But,
yeah.
So I think of, like with digital downloads. As much as everyone hated what Xbox did with, trying to push DRM and always online, that was a really sucky thing.
But they're still doing it. That's the problem.
Right, but the thing is, they're going to implement it over time. But people are ultimately going to go that route anyway. I think the only way that people are going to get to that point now where they don't want a physical collection and they don't feel like they need it. We're seeing that with movies already. And to a certain extent, I'm okay with that. But here's the thing. As a consumer, you need the confidence of knowing that the product that you purchase is going to be available, that you're not going to find out one day that it's not in the store, and then if you decide, okay, I need to save up space, I'm going to go ahead and delete this game, it's like you wouldn't be able to access it again.
Right. Well, and that goes into a whole other topic of video game preservation, which we should talk about some other time, which ROMs and ISOs and stuff like that are helping to preserve video games. But from what I understand, the physical cartridges, I understand that someday they'll go away. They'll just bit rot and whatnot will overtake them. But still, I would rather prefer to have a physical copy.
Or you think of, like, we were talking about earlier with, like, there's this thing going on at the moment with the ESRB and people want to be able to resurrect these online games, and they're basically saying, no, you shouldn't be able to do so. Even though it's like, I paid for that product, I want to still be able to use it 5-10 years after it came out.
I can only imagine that's what old Xbox original users thought when the servers on that shut down.
Oh yeah, and it's you have it as essentially a fancy coaster.
I believe it's your damn right to be able to do that, especially on games like, even though it's not considered a good game, like Titanfall. Like, someday, if some kid wants to play that, I don't see why Microsoft should be like, no, you can't play it. And try to take down those servers.
And I gotta give credit to the people who actually want to bring these back.
Yeah.
Because if you look at it, to be fair, it does cost money to keep servers open. But if people are willing...
Yeah, but that's the thing. Microsoft isn't paying a
exactly
damn dime about it.
That's what I'm saying.
Who are putting these things back up are. They're blood, sweat, tears.
That's what I'm saying, is that it does cost money, but if these people are willing to do it by themselves and not get paid, I don't see the big deal here. I don't understand how pirating can get into this. But I think we've kind of exhausted this, and I think we should go on to the main little bit that a lot of people are getting really stirred up for at the moment with what's going on.
Well, you kind of cut off Jameson there, but all right.
Sorry.
So
all I was going to say was, let's take a look and see how much...
Okay, while you're pulling that up, we'll move into the next topic. So, one of my favorite, he was at the time, I mean, with the whole Metal Gear Solid 5 thing, I really started to distrust...
Zeros,
well, that, and I just wasn't very interested in Phantom Pain. I just don't think it looks as good as the rest. And the series...
Kiefer Sutherland!
Yeah, the series was supposed to end at 4. David Hayter's not the voice anymore. I know, it's fanboy things, but the series ends so perfectly with 4. But anyway, one of my favorite people who makes games, Kojima.
Hideo
Kojima was making a new Silent Hill game with
Norman Reedus from Walking Dead.
Norman Reedus and
Guillermo del Toro, who did movies such as Pacific Rim.
Pan's Labyrinth. Yeah,
yes, that's an excellent movie, Pan's Labyrinth. And this was the dream team. We got PT, which was amazing game. I mean, for what it was pretty an amazing game.
That's another way to show that simple games still have a place in everyone's heart.
That is the right way to do a freaking tech demo, was PT. Everyone loved that game.
Did it cost anything?
No, it costed nothing. You just had to search it out.
I don't remember.
You just had to search it out, and that was it. And it costed you nothing. It was one of the coolest exclusives for PS4. We had so many conversations about how amazing.
Yeah.
How amazing.
Already people... if you go on eBay, people are already selling their PS4s because you can't delete PT. If you do, it's gone forever.
Well, hold on,
But
PT got removed from the store because the new Silent Hills game by Del Toro and Kojima got canceled. But people are selling their PS4s with PT on it since you can no longer download it. For how much, Jameson? Tell us.
Well, for example, like this listing is over $1,000.
Jesus.
Over $1,500.
$1,500. This is ridiculous. I mean, I get that this is like a week or so after this game got canceled.
Jesus Christ, dude!
This is what I'm saying. They need to stop doing this, especially the Kojima obviously left Konami because he wasn't satisfied with what they were doing with his games and how they were treating him and whatnot. And it's the last nail in the coffin for Konami. I don't see them getting anywhere with anything else without Kojima. Kojima was making them what they were. Kojima is their driving force. It's just like Capcom. They're not going to give Mega Man a chance or Mega Man Legends a chance. They're done. There's nobody cares anymore. Everyone's going to buy Street Fighter V, of course, but
because everyone buys Street Fighter.
But then they're just going to feel burned when you have to buy all the characters and whatnot. It's so ridiculous. I mean, and good for you, Kojima, for leaving Konami because your vision isn't being met. I hope you go and you start a new thing that just like Keiji Inafuda and everyone else. I hope you go and start a new thing that is Hills Silent or something, and it's
Hills have silent eyes.
Just call it PT. Call it PT the game. And do a Kickstarter for it, and I know that you'll get that shit.
Yeah, I promise you, people
will.
And actually, since we're talking about that, it's actually interesting to note that Kickstarter has helped a lot of games come through in the recent years.
Ukulele, not Mega Man, Mighty Number 9,
Pillars of Eternity, Shadowrun Hong Kong.
It's even helped other video game related projects like I forgot the name. It's called the NES Quest now, which is a movie about collecting every NES game. But it's helped projects like that get off the ground. Kickstarter is a beautiful thing, but the fact that this game got canceled is the last nail in the coffin for these companies, for Konami at least. I mean, that's such BS. I mean, but. It's just like Mega Man Legends 3 getting canceled. It's the exact same thing. Everyone was so hyped for that game. Everyone was so hyped for Silent Hills because it was a new take, and it looked amazing. It looked just epic. From the little bit we saw, everyone was talking about this game and how it was going to be the scariest thing with Oculus Rift and all that. It would have been shit your pants scary.
As Kojima said, yeah.
Yeah, and Kojima is known for doing some fucked up things in his games, and that would have been amazing. But it's canceled. So fuck you guys at Konami. Fuck you, Konami. I'm done with you. What do you guys got to say?
Yeah, I'm not very happy that someone had to leave a giant corporation because their vision wasn't met.
No, I'm happy he did.
No. That's not what I mean. What I mean is I'm not happy at all that he had to leave because of that. Because he is a very good thing. While I haven't played any Silent Hills, I do know that he's capable of very, very, very intense things. And I'm really mad at Konami being the ones that are trying to oppress someone who has a different vision of where things need to go.
Their main man, the guy who kept them
exactly. The
forever.
main man was told, no, you cannot do this. You cannot... We are making it a specific way... And we are basically going to use you as a, what do they call George Lucas now? A fact? What is it?
A fact?
Something guidance or whatever?
You're basically using the Kojima name to sell things, which is wrong.
Right.
Well, and honestly, now that we're talking about that, because that's another good thing, I hate it when someone slaps a name on something in order to get it sold. And hopefully I'm not the only one alone on this. Aliens Colonial Marines is a big, big offender of this.
Ooh, yeah, that was another... That didn't ever... Did that come to the next gen? I can't remember.
No, and I don't think it ever... It's Isolation, the better one, I think.
That's what I was going to say. Alien Isolation is another game I've heard is next gen worthy.
Yeah.
So...
Oh, yeah.
That's another one to count on the list. Sorry, go ahead.
Good.
But hold on, Jameson, do you have anything to say about this? Because you...
About Silent Hills?
And Konami and all that?
Yeah.
Again, I think it's largely illustrative of where we're at with gaming, and I think for Kojima, I don't know all the details. I don't claim to, but it's a transformative phase in his career and his life. I can respect his decision. I hope that the split between Konami and Kojima were amicable.
Yeah. Why are you looking up Yahtzee?
Oh no, that guy. He's from. He does Zero Punctuation.
Yeah, I know what he does. I've seen his stuff. He's kind of a cynical man, but I don't know why you're looking at him.
Because he liked Downpour, which I thought was interesting. Nobody.
Really?
I did not like Downpour.
What?
Nick bought Downpour.
This is the one game Yahtzee actually likes.
Yeah,
that's bullshit. I like that guy. I think he's got a lot of good thoughts, but he's really cynical about games.
Oh,
you know?
he is.
He's super cynical.
But I love how in their statement Konami said
keep it fresh.
Only foo.
Only foo.
Oh God, I like how Konami in their statement said that they plan on, even though Silent Hills had been canceled, they conveniently weave in that but we have other Silent Hill games that we want to pursue.
Other
give
ones?
a shit.
Yeah.
No, that's the thing. That's the thing. I'm sorry. Hold on to that thought for just a second. That's the thing. I don't care what Silent Hill game they put out. Probably, I don't want it. It's not probably going to be Silent Hills. There's no way. They shouldn't have canceled it. I'm not going to buy their shit, you know.
Once you have that taste of something that like PT,
yeah,
and just how, it was stripped away. It took all of the, it subverted expectations, but at the same time, it was very simplistic. You're just going around and around in circles, and anything that they do at this point is going to have to. It's sort of like a John Lennon or like an Elvis Presley. They became more famous after they died than they ever were when they were alive. Which isn't to say that they were, which isn't who?
Van Gogh.
Oh, Van Gogh, yeah. Which isn't to say that Elvis or John Lennon weren't famous, but they exploded. Their legacy blew up after they died. So Konami has shot themselves in the foot because what they've done now is, and they've even done this with Metal Gear Solid, is
I guarantee this will be remembered.
Everything that they do now will always be post PT or post Kojima.
I swear to you, this will be.
That's actually good.
That's
actually a good way to. No, that's a really good placeholder for that. Just the entire thought of just everything after this was based on one man.
Yeah. Catch my here's this is what I'm saying. I'm stating it now. This is it. This is what it is. This is the final state. I know I've said it before. This is the final state. Everything will be remembered as this was the one move that made their downfall. This is where it all started. This is their Watergate, where it's like we're very cynical now because of Watergate. We can't trust the government anymore because of that. And this is their Watergate, is this PT taking that down, the Silent Hills. It was Mega Man Legends 3 for Capcom that they did that because, here's the thing. I'm just going to say it once. The ending of Mega Man Legends 2 left open for a cliffhanger. Mega Man Legends 3 needed to happen, and it didn't, and it won't, and I'm sad. So, it's bullshit. What the fuck with Silent Hills getting taken down? Any final thoughts on that?
No, like I said, unfortunately, I'm not a huge...
with PT?
Yeah. It's bullshit.
It's one of those things where I wasn't really seriously considering buying a PS4. I'm not really seriously considering doing anything next gen at the moment.
I was happy that they had it.
But PT was one of those things where it's if I get a PS4, which I would be the one that I would get, that would be the game to have.
Absolutely,
would be PT, just because it looked. I mean, I'm not somebody who looks at graphics, but it looked gorgeous. Yeah. But more importantly, it was
true fear.
Right. It was just
it was fear you live.
Oh God.
Yeah. That's another time, you guys. We can talk about that some other time.
Fear you live. All right, go on. Sorry.
Like I said, I don't really have any final thoughts to give, only because I'm not a huge Silent Hill person, so...
It looks like the next-gen horror.
It did look good.
And it looked amazing, and it got canceled.
Looked good, too.
Screw you guys for doing that. Stop doing that shit, or I really will see the future of gaming as bullshit. So, let's move on to something else. I think we all saw a little movie.
Not a little movie anymore.
The biggest movie probably of the year.
I beg to differ, but that's just my personal opinion.
Sorry. I forgot about Star Wars. Okay, the second biggest movie of the year, obviously, Star Wars is coming out near the end of the year.
In my opinion, the biggest movie of the year.
No, Star Wars is going to be the best.
Star
the biggest. Who knows if it would be the best? I'm just saying it's the biggest one.
Maybe, hopefully.
So we all saw the Avengers 2, Age of Ultron, and you know what?
Good.
You're very good. And actually, there's an episode. It's so funny that this hasn't been released yet, but there's an episode of Retro Troop, the Gauntlet one, the very last episode we did, where we actually talk about the first Avengers, and it'll be such an interesting thing to go back and listen to that, because the first Avengers I wasn't a very big fan of, because it was mostly action, and all the other movies were sort of leading up to that, and that's fine. I guess that was okay. But you know what? I actually really enjoyed Age of Ultron, because I think the characters were just much better. Mm-hmm. The action was actually very enjoyable, and it always made sense to me in the context, and it wasn't just a full movie of action. It was very well balanced. The Ultron was a badass for a villain.
Truth be told, just a little
cool.
FYI, because I remember flipping out when I heard this.
Yeah.
The voice actor for Ultron was actually a better-known actor by the name of James Spader, who was in such things as... Nowadays, he was in The Blacklist, but back then he was in a show called Boston Legal.
Right. And so I feel like The Avengers 2 was just overall a much better movie than the first one, in my opinion. And it was one of my favorite Marvel movies, which... was kind of, for me at least, probably not for you guys, but for me, I just wasn't as excited about it anymore, but this has revitalized my excitement. I think Avengers 2 is an excellent movie. You guys go ahead and say what you want to say. It blew me away in terms of the fact that I didn't think it was going to do much for me. So I went in not expecting anything, and I came out very happy. By the way, we went to see it at 8 o'clock.
A day early.
The day before, the night before, so, because they don't do midnight, apparently. But go ahead and give your guys' thoughts.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start on this one, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So, like John, I went in with no expectations. I really didn't see much in the ways of trailers. I didn't really see much in the ways of any way to build up hype. I mean, sure, there are those pictures on iFunny, but, you know... Yeah, iFunny, the glorious app that we have. But, like I said, I know I already said this, but what really threw my interest up in the air for it was figuring out that actor James Spader, who's one of my personal favorites, not the favorite, but one of my favorites.
Right.
Excuse me, was in here. And I went to look up who he was, and I saw that he was Ultron, which... Excuse me. Granted, of his other characters, that role suit him very, very well. I think the characters were all great. They all had equal screen time, or at least enough that I can remember these characters.
Yeah, and a nice balance.
We saw characters that were in some of the other movies. We saw War Machine. We saw Falcon, which was pretty cool because.
Oh, I mean, we didn't see Falcor from Neverending Story or whatever his name was.
Yeah. It felt like a lot more of a continuity than the first movie to me. I feel like it kind of brought everything together, which was really nice. Yeah. And introduced a lot of new elements, which...
Because now if you think about it...
Which is crazy.
We have a way to connect the mainstream Marvel universe with the X-Men universe.
Yeah. And actually, these guys know a lot more about the comics than I do, but just based on not knowing... Well,
he's
much,
a DC and I'm Marvel.
Not knowing much about the comics myself, I actually really enjoyed still this storyline.
I remember...
Everything behind it.
I remember we were at the movie, and whenever a name or an object was said that I knew of, I would just be like, oh, shit, it's coming. And then Mab would always look over at me and go, what are you talking about? I'm like, just watch.
It gives some foresight. Jameson, what do you think? What do you got?
About
Age of Ultron.
I'm just looking here. You know what? Overall, I really liked it. I wasn't a big fan of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
And I think having seen Age of Ultron, I think I figured out why I didn't really care for Guardians. My brother really liked it. You guys really liked it. I felt like
Nick really liked it. Mab really liked it.
It has a high. Oh, you did. That's right.
I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it as much as everyone else.
And I think I figured out, having watched Avengers: Age of Ultron, why it didn't work.
Oh, really? Please let me hear this.
Okay, so Avengers. So directed by Joss Whedon, the film. One of the things I really liked, and what ended up being one of my problems with Age of Ultron, is the constant referencing back to, and this has been one of the problems with the Marvel Cinematic Universe is it's become sort of like the comics in a way. Everything is interconnected, and it's so dense. It's not really a standalone movie anymore.
Told you
a
guys
lot
to
of
see
people,
Thor 2.
I know. A lot of people
well, I mean, I understood it.
Are
so.
saying, you know, that they've made this
I knew
analogy
Heimdall. I
that,
saw him.
but they've made this analogy that it's not so much a movie anymore as it is this big $200 million episode of a TV show. And every year you're going to get this like this, or every 9 months or whatever. I'm not going to go down the list and tell you what the release schedule is for these films.
It's ridiculous.
But it's crazy. But
DC thinks they can do this shit.
They can't.
But
ain't no way.
But
I like DC.
Think of every year there's a new episode, if you will, and it's just the problem with doing that is after a while it becomes difficult to appreciate the movies as standalone features. Avengers: Age of Ultron has a lot of winking at the audience, that kind of Eddie Wally. Wow.
Yeah, especially that end.
Wow. Yeah. Where
no, don't. For our listeners who haven't seen it.
Oh yeah,
forgot we can't do spoilers.
But I just think of, you had
they won't know who it is until they see it.
Yeah,
and even then they might not know.
There's Vision in it, right? And
no, I think he was in a trailer or something, though, wasn't he?
Like for a little bit. I don't remember, but they never. I don't think they actually referenced him by name.
But you got War Machine at the end. You've got Scarlet Witch. You've got
Quicksilver.
But people knew Scarlet Witch was there. Yeah. And granted, okay, I guess.
And Quicksilver, and you know that you people can figure out that they're probably going to be good guys at some point. So. And Vision, and he's got the Infinity Stone, and
my god,
yeah, spoilers. And then there's the Thanos thing at the end. Yeah, can see what I'm doing.
Yeah, whatever, who cares? Thanos was at the end, and he had the Infinity Gauntlet.
But that's my problem. That was my problem with Guardians of the Galaxy. Was they decided that you needed to have Thanos in there for a little bit. And the problem with these movies is they spend so much time setting up for future installments. And I just want to... I like comic books, but I want to be able sometimes to just appreciate the movie for what it is. I go into it, it's 2 hours, it's a self-contained story. You can have little references, little things here and there to tie these together. But so much of it is, we haven't even... I really want to appreciate Ultron. I like James Spader a lot in the role. I thought he was menacing, but there was a humor to it that I really liked.
I gotta... Actually, I hate to chime in, but I also agree with that I thought, if you see James Spader, in the Blacklist, you can definitely make the parallel that, he knows how to play that kind of character, the sinister guy, but he knows how to be funny.
Yeah.
Ultron really did have a lot of that. He was menacing enough that you knew he was a bad guy, but he was humorous enough to keep everything in an almost realistic, way. I just liked Ultron as a villain. He was menacing, his grand design, and just really good casting on that part, Joss Whedon. Really good casting.
So overall, the movie was good, and I liked what they did with it, and in the direction they're taking. And there were a few flaws, like Jameson said, but other than that, I think it was overall.
I think the pros outweigh the flaws.
The pros outweigh the cons. It was overall a very good movie.
I certainly agree. I just think it'll be moving forward when we get more and more movies. I think there's always that potential where it's just going to get a little bit more confusing.
I thought I saw Daredevil for a minute there. I was like, wait, what?
I know. Well, who knows? That could happen where people are already expecting...
Apparently it's canon.
Well, yeah, because I looked up the other day, and the new Daredevil release is canon to the cinematic universe.
So, the movie was good.
Yes.
And we all enjoyed it. So, the next...
Which is a rarity for us.
Yeah, that was what really stunned me about it. Just to say, again, we never agree, especially with Guardians of the Galaxy or anything. There's never a movie, there hasn't been for years now, where we all have been like, this was really good, and this was that movie. Because usually Jameson's brother John never...
gives an opinion, or he's
really critical about these movies. There's always something he doesn't like. But this movie, he enjoyed it. All of us enjoyed it, so that was a rare treat. Anyway, so we attended a convention more recently.
Midwest Gaming!
Yeah, Midwest Classic Gaming Expo, which was great, and I really enjoyed it. It was the first gaming con I'd ever been to, and it was fantastic. What'd you guys think?
Personally, as one of the first big game cons that I've ever been to,
yeah,
I really liked it. I liked seeing this giant. I liked seeing this giant museum of all of the consoles that we had.
Yeah, that was cool.
That existed, and just seeing what led up to everything that we have today, even was just such a good treat to see. It was. I wouldn't mind doing one of those again.
Yeah, we're definitely going to go next year. I think also just the fact that we were all sort of there and together, because our friend Mayab's actually going to be moving to Washington, so it's a little. This is kind of the last big thing we did with him, so I feel like that was kind of a special trip that we have here, and we really just. There wasn't a lot of problems with this trip, and it just we really enjoyed each other's company, and I think that the arcade was amazing. I so wish I could have still bought that Marvel versus Capcom.
You mean
2.
The one for like $500?
Yeah, machine.
Yeah,
which was like $550, but that's like amazing for the price on that machine. Since I've never seen one online, I can't find one. If anybody who's listening to the podcast knows where I can find a Marvel vs. Capcom 2 machine, you tell me and I'll buy it from you. Anyway,
call it 1-800. We're not telling you our real number.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I thought that was awesome. There were so many arcade games and there were so many fighting games and whatnot, and we really enjoyed hanging out in there and playing those. And the vendor hall was incredible. I mean. So much stuff, and we kind of got in a half hour early, and even earlier than that because they just kind of let us past the people a little bit early, and so
that was my idea, by the way.
Yeah. So
yeah, because we were at what was it? Remember, it was a week before. It was like either a month or a week before we were going, and we were all sitting in a Chili's, and we were trying to decide how we were going to do everything. And I was like, "Well, how about we do this? Nick, see if you can do your test." Because he's far away.
Sure. Yes, I understand what you're saying, but that's not what I was talking about. I was talking about when we got in there, we were standing in line or whatever, they let us in 10 or 15 minutes early.
Yeah, okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah. They kind of screwed up or whatever, and they let us in a little early, and Mayab was the only one of our group who got cut off.
Mayab
was you, right?
No, Mayab later told me that he decided he was going to stay there and follow the rules.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He got cut off
by choice,
right? But so then we all ran in and got what we needed, and it's pretty incredible. I could talk about some of the pickups here I got in a minute, but Jameson, what do you want to say about this?
Oh, for the Midwest Gaming Classic.
Yeah.
Was it classic in the Midwest?
It was classic. It seriously was. It was very classic for our group of friends. It was amazing.
I enjoyed it. I think
the Dreamcast incident was fun.
No, I'm not. You know what? It's cool. I'm not even the least bit worried about it because I
was working now.
I still think that's a fun story.
For $40. So I bought it from this guy, right? I got it for $40. I thought, it was shrink wrap, but visually speaking, I thought it looked like it was in really good shape.
It wasn't in box, by the way. It wasn't like sealed or anything. No, it was just shrink wrapped around the console.
Right. It wasn't a box. It wasn't a box shrink wrap, but for $40, I thought. You got two controllers. You got the necessary cable hookups. One controller with the VMU. I thought, okay, $40 might be a little bit high.
No,
but
that's a good deal on that system.
Well, I've seen. Well,
I think so because Disc Replay still even sells them for more.
Yeah, $40. Now that I think about it, it is in really good shape.
Good. It was
I'm holding it right now. It literally looks. I might be overstating this, but it literally looks like it came out of the box.
Yeah, it's in really.
It's a nice condition, but. Do you want to...
Well, no, because what he did was... So, the power cable, I'm going to assume, is original. The controller would be original, obviously.
Yeah.
But the AV cables... And we had... What was really nice about the TV in our room was that it actually... A lot of hotels now are doing this where you can't hook anything up like an external device, like a Blu-ray or...
Yeah, you have to have coaxial.
Ours did actually have a AV input. So... Run this thing upstairs. Sure enough, the cables didn't work. And what he had done was he did not include the original Dreamcast cables. Rather, they were these cheap third-party AV cables. And it's like, okay, shoot. Well, he said if there's anything wrong with it, you can always come back down. Let him know. So he gives me another set of AV cables to try.
No, hold on. We went back to him after this. Yeah. He gives Jameson another set of cables. He's like, no, these will definitely work. And they were in box and whatever. And we look at them, and they're third-party AV cables.
And the brand was like, it wasn't Retro bit, I don't think. Cause I bought
no, those are good. But
no, because that's what I ended up buying was Retro bit.
Yeah,
Retro
yeah.
Bit, and they weren't
Nice,
great.
nice.
So.
That's who makes those little dongles for my controller. You know,
The
hookup.
dongles.
Yeah. The USB to NES and 64 and SNES and all that.
But anyway,
bits. Anyway, go on.
So, but I was like, really? I mean, it was.
Yeah, but he was nice enough to do it. He just kind of gave us these cables.
But the second time it didn't work.
And so we went back up to the room. We tried it the first time, and then we tried it again. This time, it still didn't work. It just wouldn't. We couldn't find it on the screen. So we go down, and we know there's this video game museum or whatever. And I'm like, Jameson, come on, we have to go and just ask them. Jameson's like, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be pretty inconvenient for them. And we go up to these guys, and they're so nice. They were like, yes, absolutely. Just
to be fair, and I want to chime in, everybody was really nice there, too.
Excellent people. But so we asked these guys in this room full of this museum full of all the consoles or whatever, and they were super nice, and they helped us out, and we found out it was just our cables, which was a good thing because Jameson and I didn't know if it was broken or what had happened. It would turn on and everything, but it just we just couldn't see the image.
And it makes those familiar noise. It kind of makes that noise like like a disc spinning or whatever.
Right, it's super loud. But anyway, so we did eventually figure that out, and Jameson got new cables, and everything was good, but. What games did you get in all that with this?
For the Dreamcast, I got Crazy Taxi for like $10, I want to say.
It's pretty good.
But mint condition, as far as I can tell, make base manual, everything's fine.
Yeah.
For the Dreamcast, I got Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and that was disc only, unfortunately, and I think I paid like $15 for that. Then I got.
It came with a case, though. Yeah,
I did, but it was a really cool case. They printed.
Yeah. It was a nice looking case.
He printed the.
It almost looked like a PS2 case.
Yeah, and I think the label came from. There was a website, I can't think of it at the moment. You would know, right? Where you could print custom labels. And it was actually really cool.
I don't know the website, but I know what you're talking. Oh, the cover project. That's
exactly.
What it's
called. Yeah, because they had. But it was a really cool case. So I'm like, okay, $15, whatever. Because I really wanted some Dreamcast games, and then I also got Quake 3 Arena.
Nice,
excellent.
I think that's the only 3 that I got because Dino Crisis.
Yeah.
Crisis ended up being for the PlayStation,
and
then I got a bunch of other stuff as well.
That's the thing was we kind of wanted to play those games, but we couldn't because we didn't have the proper AV cables.
Mm-hmm.
But no, what else did you get? Go ahead and talk about other.
For the PC, I got Fallout 2.
Right.
And again, a lot of stuff
on
Steam.
You got Fallout 2 for the PC?
Yeah.
Really?
So did I, dude.
So I got Fallout 2. I got Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine.
Nice.
Quake for the PC. Doom for the PC.
Hexen.
A lot of these I already have.
Yeah,
Hexen. A lot of these I have Hexen for the N64. A lot of these I already have on Steam, but I thought, fuck it, why not?
Right.
And then I think
you have
everything.
Steam, don't you?
Yeah.
Give me your username after we're done here.
Butthole 65.
Butthole 65.
Well, what was Mavs?
Bro, no.
I think it's fake one. Dickman 64 or something like that.
Dickman Dyke 65.
I don't remember.
Oh my god. I think that might be everything. I know I got.
Okay.
I bought a bunch of CDs, which is non-related, a bunch of obscure crap. That Mayab is like the king of obscure.
He is.
Our brothers like, you guys like classical, neo-classical rock, hippie bullshit. You guys like
rock and roll.
Our friend Nick, who's doing an N64 collection more recently, did really well. He ended up with some good stuff from there, and. No, let's go on a little longer. It's fine. It's the first episode, so So anyway, what he did really well. He ended up getting a few really uncommon things. I know definitely I did end up getting a few really uncommon things for my NES collection. I got RC Pro-Am 2, which is very hard to find. I got that for $60, which is actually a very good price. I got Mario's Time Machine, which you would think is actually not that expensive of a game, but it's actually one of the last games released for the NES, so it was very expensive, but it usually goes for around 100 or so, and I got it for 70, so I thought that was a fair price. I actually got rid of my Sunset Riders. I didn't need that game, so I sold it to somebody who was just standing. It was really lucky. It was very fortunate. I was standing there looking at some other game near this, and some guy walks up to this guy next to me, and he's like, "Hey, you got Sunset Riders?" And he's like, "Yeah, I got that game." And he's like, "How much?" He's like, $70. And I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me! I paid like $30 for this game." And I'm like, "That's way overpriced." But then I wait for that guy to walk away, and I lean over to the guy, and I'm like, "Hey, I got Sunset Riders if you want it. I'll do it for $50. And he's like, "Absolutely." And so I made a quick $50 that way, so that was good. I didn't know if I was going to get rid of that game, but I was in the right place, the right time, so that was good. I also got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, The Manhattan Project, which I've been looking for forever. It's actually a really good beat-em-up game, cooperatively, that is. And just a few other games, Moffat Conspiracy, and Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, Pool of Radiance, maybe, I think. That one came with the manual, and I got, I feel like I'm forgetting a big one. As far as NES, I got a few more common titles, but I got one I've been looking for years. I'm a huge fan. I know I didn't say this before. I'm a huge fan of the Mega Man Legends series. I started with the one on the 64. This is my first N64 game ever, and I finally found it. Mega Man Legends 2 on the PlayStation for $70, which is a really good price on that game. They had one for $60, but it didn't have the original backing and all that, so I was like, screw that, fuck that, I'm getting the original for $70, and I finally have that game, and I beat it, and that was really good. I'll talk about that here in a minute. And so I got that, which was a dream come true, because I've been looking for that game for ever since I got my Mega Man 64 and found out about Mega Man Legends 2, and it's bullshit that they canceled Legends 3. I also got, what did I get? There was another one. There's another big one. Shoot. I don't recall the other big one. I'll say it if I think of it in a bit. But, yeah, so I got all of those, and I did pretty good for what I got a strategy guide for Golden Sun 1 and 2, and also Metal Gear Solid 4 Collector's Edition for $20, so that was good. Oh, and Metal Gear Solid on Game Boy Color, which is a really hard game to find, and I had twice in my childhood, but can never find it again until just now, so that was a big one for me. So a lot of good finds there for me. John, what exactly did you find?
I got the
classic gaming
full version of Diablo 2.
Diablo.
Yeah. I got all of Disciples 2, which doesn't work, so I don't know, $5 not well spent.
Why did it not work? Or?
No, it didn't work. I think my computer's just a little too new for it. Because I can't.
There's some stuff you can do. You're gonna have to, like, I know for a fact of some of the stuff I bought. I mean, you're gonna have to. I mean, not that I already have Steam, but some of that stuff you're gonna have to maybe download emulators or whatever. 'Cause basically, you're trying to trick your computer into thinking it's an older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Age of Wonder 2. I forget. I forget what the secondary title is. I don't remember. Like I said, I got Fallout 2.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for PC. I got a game called Monster Madness for the 360, which I haven't seen in years, so I was just happy enough to pick it up.
Yeah. Another Stubbs the Zombie.
Yeah, I have Stubbs the Zombie, by the way. Hidden Xbox gem.
I found that for that's a really uncommon game, and I remember the day, because we've been looking for that for forever. I remember the day I ran across it, and I'm like, "Holy shit, John, look!" And he's like, "Oh my god, it's Stubbs the Zombie!"
And bought it that day.
Yeah, and everyone else was just like, "Whatever, it's Stubbs the Zombie."
I like that game. It's quirky. It's funny. It's an amazing game.
I got it for a good price. Anyway, continue. Did you get anything else?
I want to say there's something else that I'm forgetting, but I don't know what it is.
And
I don't remember.
Nad bought 2 fucking Persona 4, one for Persona 4 and one for
He
Persona
made
3
money at that con.
art books. Yeah, he said he made money, but I don't know about that.
Well, he sold those.
Yeah, I know. He sold some stuff. He sold his Lunar to Complete Box or whatever.
And didn't he sell a dot hack?
Did he?
No, he sold his Xenosaga.
He sold his Xenosaga games. But anyway, and his Magna Carta for PS2. Anyway, but the thing is, he got those 2 art books, and I was extremely jealous. I just didn't have any money at that point to buy them.
Yeah, we all went bankrupt by the time we were done.
And I still even owe money. Well, not for the con anymore. I owe them for the TV now. But anyway, so yeah, we had a great time there. We were all in good company. I loved being there. I don't know if there's... I mean, there's so many stories we could tell, but I don't think there's anything else that I need to tell here and now. So it was great, good. So what games have we been playing recently?
Recently?
For you, John, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to start first. Fallout New Vegas I've recently got myself into for PC, because for the longest time I played it for 360, but with the power of mods, it's a completely new game for me. Skyrim also I've been admittedly getting back into. Yeah, it's a game. That also with mods, it's a completely different game.
There's nothing wrong going back to older games.
Well, no. But especially with a game that is so infamously addicting, it's sort of an odd little thing. Pillars of Eternity, like I said, I've been playing a lot of, because it's just an interesting little, like, CRPG that just is really a fun game. It is just really a fun game to play. What else? I know there had to have been something else that I'm missing, but... replaying Metro the Last Light. I like that game a lot.
Uh-huh.
It's super fun. State of Decay, one of my favorite zombie games of all time.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, I love that game.
What's that on? Is that on PC as well?
Yeah, you can get it. They recently released a Year 1 edition, which has been met with mixed criticism, but I don't know. It seems alright to me.
Okay.
And yeah, a really unpopular game, Destroy All Humans, Path of the Furon.
Really? Those aren't popular games?
1 and 2 were, and then after that, they've kind of, like, they got less...
Because I remember that's all you guys used to talk about in middle school, was Destroy All Humans.
Destroy All Humans 2, for me, was my favorite of the Destroy All Humans games. Yeah. I've played all Destroy All Humans games, but I've only beaten the last 3.
Right.
And here's hoping that Nordic Games does something right and makes another one, because I would love to see my favorite homicidal alien, Cryptosporidium, get back up on the street again.
Absolutely. What else? Anything else?
I don't think so, no.
Alright, so, yeah, alright. So I've been playing, Jay-Z, that is, I've been playing Mega Man Legends 2, of which I got, at the con about a month ago, and I finally beat that game, which, for me, having loved the first game as a child, was good, and there was a lot of good things going on, and it was really just more Mega Man Legends action, and it was really really good, but they kind of leave the story on a cliffhanger where Mega Man is kind of stuck on this planet, and that's it, and they're supposed to go and save him, but they don't have the technology to go and save them, and they're trying to build the technology in the final scene. And so when Mega Man Legends 3 got canceled, that's kind of a big deal, because we're entirely left hanging on this story. We never found out what exactly, as far as I know, the mother lode actually is. What exactly was the mother lode? I don't know. Some of the characters got a little more expanded upon, and they kind of went into what Mega Man actually is and what Data actually is, but we never got our answers about the mother lode and what that exactly is, which is very disappointing. But it's Capcom's fault for leaving this on such a cliffhanger, and it's so bad that they would do so. It's terrible. But other than that, I've obviously been playing Final Fantasy 13, which I could go on a 17-hour rant about, but I'm not going to. Only because Mayab is playing Dragon Quest VIII, which is which is our trade-off. Final Fantasy 13, it's a terrible game. The linearity ruins the game, basically. And just don't believe what people are saying. 20 hours in, it doesn't get good. It gets sort of good, but it's still linear as fuck right afterwards. And it's just, there's no point. Don't ever, 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 ever subject yourself to that game. You don't need to. Go buy Persona. Go buy anything other than Final Fantasy 13, because it is terrible. It is one of the worst games I've ever played, and given the choice to have to beat it or Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde again, I would rather beat Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde again, as I have before. So, Jameson, what have you been playing?
Oh my gosh, recently.
You got the Dreamcast and the PSP, so you got the PSP more recently. So, what games on there have you been playing?
The two games that I've been playing recently, off and on, would be Castlevania Dracula X Chronicles,
which is interesting. I'm interested to hear about that game. How is that?
That's Castlevania.
Yeah.
It's fun.
You like it?
No, it's good. Yeah. No, I sold it for. I decided
sold it for crack money to your brother.
Exactly. My drug dealer brother, who's not a drug dealer at all.
He's a drug dealer.
Of course not.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's really good. It's Castlevania. I don't really know what to say about it other than it's Castlevania. It's late, so. Other one was Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Stories, which, I mean, this day and age, Rockstar has managed to put the whole franchise, with the exception of the 4 and 5, they've managed to take Grand Theft Auto 3 and San Andreas and shrink it down and put it on the iPad. So it's not quite as special anymore to say, oh, I'm going to play this on the PSP. But I'm blown away, frankly, even today.
Really?
Like, wow, they managed to take something that, they managed to take something like Grand Theft Auto and put it on the PSP, and you could play that on the go. And
yeah, I like the idea
games
of
like
portable.
that remind you. The PSP is not a perfect system, certainly. The fact that you have to use Sony memory, the memory duo, whatever they're called. But the UMDs are imperfect. They were prone to breaking. You could always break the plastic shell. They get scratched.
You break the tray for your UMD.
Exactly. Yeah. But when Sony, they set out to put the power of the PlayStation in the palm of your hand, I think they succeeded, and certainly they've succeeded even more so.
Oh, they did such a good job, especially with the
Vita.
Well,
with the Vita,
yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute. But they did a good job, especially with the PlayStation Store, to where you could download PlayStation Classic games and play them on the go as if they were PSP games, like Tomba. I know, it's fine. It's the first episode. So what else you got going on? What other games did you get for the PSP? Is that it so far?
At the moment, yeah, I think I mean, other than I've been moving stuff from the PS3 over to the PSP.
Like, what games have you done?
Well, I did that with, Metal Gear Solid, and then, Resi.
Yeah, Resi.
Tazzy.
Get a Chris reference.
I was going to put PT on the PSP.
Yeah.
PT on the PSP. And
if only you could.
Makes me want a PP.
Okay, that was too bad. You ruined it.
Shut up.
Dreamcast, do you play any games on there?
Not really. Haven't got a chance to really explore that yet, unfortunately. I'd like to get some more stuff, like to build up a library with that. But...
Yeah.
Whenever we find out how to burn games.
I think the most I did with it was I turned Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on.
Mm-hmm.
And,
you gotta unlock all the characters.
Yeah. That's all I did, was I just had that on a loop for like an hour.
Yeah. So,
that's catchy.
Is that it?
That's about it.
Okay. So, oh yeah, I can't believe, well, okay. I just want to talk about the Vita really quick. And this kind of, I should have put this into the analysis section because this kind of ties back into both of these two things that we're going to talk about next, the Vita and the Retro VGS. actually tie into the main topic today. In terms of the Retro VGS is this new game system that's basically essentially going to be playing 16-bit new games, new 16-bit games that people are developing today on this console, and it's going to be coming out. There's going to be a Kickstarter for it at some point, and I think the prospect of that is exactly what we were talking about earlier when we were talking about why the PS4 is suffering and why don't they just bring out new old games, like that, and spend so much less developing and still just make good games. And I think it has a lot of potential. Stuff like Shovel Knight can be put on here, and Pure Solar for people who know about that. What do you guys think about this Retro VGS and what that's trying to do as a new old game system?
Well, being a new gen gamer, I don't really think it's my place to be.
Right.
Yeah. So
it's for a certain market, of course.
Yeah, I mean it. I like the idea. It sounds cool. Certainly, if I was a more retro gamer, I would probably go more for it. But since I was brought up in the GameCube era, I don't really I can't really comment on it. Sorry.
What do you think, Jameson?
I think there's always going to be a market for that. One of the things that when you do retro gaming, you have to think about is, it goes back to the PC and there's so much that you can do with modding and being able to get things as the ROMs and whatnot. That are people really going to be drawn to a console when again the retro gaming experience, if you're not someone who is a collector of original cards, is that going to be appealing to the casual retro gamer in the sense that, again, I think that the PC and the ease with which somebody can pick up these ROMs, and as long as you have a USB enabled controller, you can be playing these games with really little to no ease. I mean, little to no difficulty. So having a console that's built around retro gaming, I think there's some appeal, but
the console's going to have exclusive games that aren't.
Oh, that is a good point, though. Yeah,
going to be there. They're going to be coming in physical cartridges, so you'll finally be able to get a physical cartridge of something like Shovel Knight and Pure Solar games that. Well, Pure Solar had physical card. Some of these indie games like Rogue Legacy and stuff that don't.
I think in that case
won't get a physical release. Other than this, so.
But I think it does go back to the PC to some extent, though, because you have to remember that people. I just see it playing to a niche market, and there's no problem with that at all. But I think for it to be successful, it's a tough call because you think about the Ouya or whatever, and that was
right.
That was a micro console that was
it's kind of executed badly though.
Yeah, but that was something that was. That was funded with Kickstarter and people, there were certainly supporters who believed in it, but it never really got anywhere at all. Mm-hmm. This new console, I think, is cool in theory. I think it's going to find its audience, and I think, the idea that you're putting games on cartridges, I think it's a cool idea. I really do. But in terms of penetrating a large market, it'll be a fun little curiosity. I'll keep my eye on it. I'm curious to see what happens. Who knows? Maybe I'll even pick one up. But I think the way to go into it is, I just hope that the people behind the retro VGS aren't looking at it and going, "Oh man, we're gonna make buco bucks," because it's just not gonna happen.
Right. I don't think that's what they're thinking.
Well, right. Well, I mean, if every gamer out there, old, new, so on and so forth, if that's 10 people, I could maybe see them, being able to sell it to 2 of them. You know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I wish them all the luck in the world, and I think it's a cool idea. But time will tell. And the only reason I'm a little bit doubtful is just because, again, the Ouya was something that I remember getting a little bit excited about that too. Here's something that's going to come along. It's a micro console. It's going to challenge the big guys. It's
It's reasonably priced. Its price point was something that was very attractive.
Right.
Its simplicity. It's running on Android. I forget what the operating system was, and then of course it goes nowhere. And of course the reason why I ultimately decided it's not worth it was because there wasn't anything special and unique about it. Now, to this new system's credit, it does sound like they're going to have a lot of unique titles.
Yeah.
And it's going to provide an experience that you can't get. I mean, I think its titles are going to be unique, but I don't know that it's necessarily going to provide an experience. And who knows? But I don't necessarily know that it's going to provide an experience that you can't get on PC.
I think with the exclusive titles and the
there'll be enough there, but
the fact that this is sort of a new old console is going to push this. You're right. It's not going to hit everyone. It's sort of for a niche audience like myself. But I'm excited about it because there's a lot. There's a lot of things like the fact that they're releasing physical cartridge games again.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's not. I got no problem.
And all of these games are sort of going to be those retro-inspired games, your Shovel Knight and whatnot. They're going to be more like that, and they're going to release these games in stores and whatnot. And I feel like that will be something cool to be a part of, to behold again. And I just want to mention that there are a lot of companies on board with this. They're actually the company's on board. Most people know who Gamester81 is, and he works for a company that's called Collector Vision, and they make basically new old games for Super Nintendo and NES at this point, and they're actually going to be one of the main contributors behind this new console, which is exciting because I've seen their other work and it's pretty good. But what the other thing that's cool about this this console is that the fact that it's a new cartridge system console that's going to have exclusive games that you're not going to be able to always get on the PC is a cool concept, and then the fact that they'll be releasing in stores and whatnot. So for people like me, I feel like that's something cool. It's something cool to be a part of. So.
Mm-hmm.
See, but that's what I was trying to get at here, was that it's the it's kind of the answer to what we were asking for, I think, in anyway. With this whole PS4, like going and trying to push the limits of these new systems and whatever, and we're just asking, hey, just make simple games for an older, for not necessarily an older system, just make simple games in general, And I think that and handhelds are really where that's going to shine, and that's why I think that's why I'm sad that the Vita is not doing as well as it could be, because it's a hard market, It's a very hard market, like Jameson was saying, because if Sony and their handheld can't with games that are visually and sometimes even within gameplay superior to a lot of 3DS games that you can't really get anywhere else on the Vita console, and a clear screen and everything, dual joysticks and all of that, and the fact that that's not doing as well, technically the more powerful system and the better system of the two, in my opinion. Of course that's up to debate because everyone and their mom loves the 3DS, but I just think there's not a lot there drawing me towards the 3DS as much as there is towards the Vita. And the Vita has a lot of really quality games. I think it's a bit underrated in that regard. What do you think, Jameson, of the Vita?
The Vita. Again, I think Sony is providing an experience that you can't get necessarily with like an Android or an iOS device, which I think is very cool. I think its price point has been a big issue for them.
Yeah, they need to bring that price down.
And besides having to compete with Nintendo, which has always been the king of the handheld market, which is a given,
they're also competing for the first time with cell phones, which wasn't the case, when they came out with PSP in 2000, when it was launched in Japan in 2004. So I think, again, the Vita is kind of going to play to a niche audience where it's the hardcore gamer. It's somebody where you're fighting for, if you think of the big games fighting for space in your living room, the handhelds have to be even more important because you're fighting for space in your pocket. You can have like your bag with you and you can throw it in.
Right, exactly.
That's great, but
things that small enough to fit in your pocket.
Exactly, but that's what I'm saying.
That's the problem. That's the problem with the new 3DS as well. Is that thing it's an XL version because they didn't bring out the small version here.
Well, yeah.
That shit cannot fit in your pocket, and I feel like that's stupid for a handheld. It's supposed to be able to fit in your pocket.
Well, here's the thing. When I say it fit in your pocket, what I mean is it's so important to you that it has to go in your pocket. You know what
exactly.
I mean? Like you throw something in the bag, it's like it's whatever. You wouldn't think of throwing your phone in the bag. We've become so connected to your cell phone that it's always got to be on your person at all times.
Exactly.
That's what I mean. Is the PS Vita does not supplant the phone, even if it's got all these great features. Absolutely. It's not going to appeal to every consumer the way that it would maybe to the gamer, where they're willing to say, okay, the phone doesn't matter to me, but this gaming experience does.
Yeah.
Well, and that's another thing about the future of gaming. When you look at it, the phones, they're taking over, man. I mean, handhelds should be dead, but they're not. But it's strange, though, because, it's just so odd.
Well,
the phones are just... They're wrecking the market.
What do you think about the fact that, and this is going to be something for another time, I'm sure, where Nintendo's next gen project, can we call it, even if we can call it next gen, I don't know, because they plan on incorporating the Wii U into their overall plan. But there was rumors now for months and months and months about Nintendo possibly releasing some of their titles, or the way they worded it was exclusive titles to mobile platforms.
Right. The way I've understood that, though, is that they're just going to release little demos that are like not as they are full games, but they're not like the quality experience that you would get on the console. To be kind of it's kind of like the CDI, how they released the Zelda games on there,
right?
To kind of say, hey, look how terrible these are. You can get these on our console if you go and buy that.
But the fact that they're actually doing that, I think, is in some ways an admission that the game has changed.
Yeah.
And that cell phones have kind of crept in, and Nintendo can pretend all they want that, oh hey, look at what you're not getting on your cell phone, and that's why you should buy a handheld. But now it still kind of seems like that the handheld is relevant. Where are we going to be in 5 years? And I think it goes back to the PS TV and the Ouya, and certainly the new Retro VGS that they have coming out. It's at the end of the day, it's a matter of space and convenience and feeling like that you're getting a good value. Mm-hmm. Most people, it's been Microsoft's plan now for the Xbox One. They've made it clear that they're not as interested in the hardcore gamer. It seems strange that especially on a podcast that's mainly gaming oriented, to be talking about the average consumer, but at the end of the day, you got to remember that that's the majority of the market. They're looking at their business, and they're going to be looking at people who are thinking beyond just gaming. It sucks, and I really do think I think these gaming specific devices are great. Let me get that out of the way. But you've got companies who are at the end of the day looking to make a profit. They've got to branch out. Ouya fails. Microsoft is looking at
getting out of the game business.
They're looking at getting out of the game business, but they're focusing on what? They're focusing on TV. They're focusing on
TV,
sports.
Call of Duty.
You will love this dog.
It's a set-top box that you've got to have connected to your cable box. You don't have to, of course, but it's enhancing something that gamers don't really care about. Well, why is the cable box there? It's because they're as interested in your dad, generic your dad, not specifically your dad, but they want your dad as much as they want you. You know, that kind of sounds kind of weird, doesn't it? We love your dad. You know,
we love you. We love your dad.
Yeah, we want your dad.
You know,
you will want your dad.
Microsoft loves your dad.
Yeah,
Microsoft loves everybody's dad.
Mom suspiciously absent from the lovemaking sessions with Microsoft. Anyway, but the future, I think, is going to smile upon the all-in-one devices. We've seen that with the iPad. We've seen that with the iPhone, where the niche area, the free space for gamers is going to be like an app or something that you would download on your phone. Mm-hmm. It's so the idea that you have specific devices coming out that are really specific to just gamers is I don't see that lasting very long. And again, I wish the Retro VGS well. I wish the Vita well. I think that they're great. I think the VGS has a lot of promise. I think the Vita is it does things that the handheld has never been able to do before.
But you know what? With the support of Atlas and stuff, it's still a nice little console to have because Atlas actually does put a lot of games on there.
You're going up against the world for the first time.
I mean, they're still putting. It's a little bit of a sad moment, but Persona 4 Dancing All Night, which most people will be like, that's stupid, is going to be exclusive to Vita, which is the last in the Persona 4 games. And that's going to be exclusive. So, mind blown. I mean, just like, they're still supporting it, but not very well. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, that's pretty much it, yeah.
All right. Well, that's pretty accurate to all the things. John, do you have anything to say about that to wrap it up, to kind of tie things together?
No, not really. Sorry, that last couple of stuff wasn't. I mean, not that it's not relevant to me. It's just I don't have any footing in order to make an opinion on it. Otherwise, I would have.
All right. Well, that sounds like it's going to be the end of this episode of the Retro Troop podcast. I've been Jay-Z.
I'm John.
I'm Fu, apparently.
Not that we even called him that the entire episode. Yay. But all I'm going to say is keep it classic, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.